Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I hope you're all well, and I'd like to welcome everybody to the second day of our Energy Institute Middle East HSE and Sustainability Forum. I hope you're all well and you're looking forward to another day of excellent presentations, discussion. We certainly have a great array of speakers today from all around the globe, all in different time zones. So thank you to everybody for being here to support this event today, both speaking and listening. Whereas yesterday we looked predominantly at sustainable energy futures and building towards transition and the importance of working collaboratively and together, today we're going to turn our minds more to sustainable operations in the wake of the global pandemic, how to manage continuity of business, and how to build confidence in the workplace moving forward. Before we begin, and I hand over to our moderator for this morning, I'd like to say a special thank you to our sponsors for today. So thank you very much to Babco for sponsoring and being the host sponsor today. Thank you also to IBM as an Energy Institute Knowledge Partner. And thank you to our silver sponsors, Fulath Holdings, Linxon Switzerland, NASA S. Al Hadri Corporation, and TTS JB. Thank you all very much for making today possible. And thank you too to the Ministry of Oil and the Sustainability Forum Authority in Bahrain for endorsing today's event. Before I pass on to our first speaker of the day, I just want to remind everybody and encourage you all to please do ask questions in the Q&A sessions. It's pretty straightforward to do. The session chairs will monitor questions and then we'll pose them to the speakers during the Q&A sessions, and we'll endeavour to answer all questions if we can. If you see a question that somebody else has asked and you support that question, then you can like it and it raises its profile and it's more likely it will get included in the question session. And please, when you do ask a question, could you make sure you indicate who that speaker is the question is aimed at, and also the session. So to our first speaker of the day, and we're joined today by Gaetano De Santis, who's the General Manager for Reliability and Maintenance at Babco. And he's going to talk to us this morning about T&I planning management in the pandemic world. Gaetano is a senior executive with more than 30 years of international experience in the oil and gas industry, working in multicultural environments with a number of world-class international companies. Gaetano is a world-recognized leader in his field with a strong track record of promoting cooperation, harmony, and leading teams in achieving the common goals that they are all trying to aim for. HSE is a fundamental pillar to his approach, with specific capability of building and importantly maintaining trusting relationships with external authorities, local partners, and stakeholders. Energy conservation, management system certification processes, lean production implementation, and complex reorganization projects are an integral and fundamental part of his professional background. He's managed several complex refineries in Italy and around the world, with as many as 1,500 people working in those refineries, and he's built great experience managing both upstream and downstream multi-billion-dollar projects, including a greenfield refinery. And he's had a range of roles from project director through to managing director at these establishments. So, Gaetano, I'm going to hand over to you and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Martin. Thank you for the nice presentation. It's a pleasure to be with you today, sharing the experiences that we have done in the last couple of years, because as we know, it's almost 2 years that COVID-19 is part of our life in a way or another. So if we can move to the next slide, please. When COVID-19 started, this is the graph which everybody can see in the WHO website. It started very slowly. At the beginning, there were no informations. There was no knowledge about it. There were a number of news starting from China. And then Italy, where I come from, was the first country to be impacted significantly in Europe. So the first effect of COVID-19 was probably fear. People were facing an unprecedented event. Never happened something like that in such a big scale. And it is the first time probably not only that we had a pandemic like this, but also such a strong impact on every kind of work activity because of people availability, because of the lockdowns, because of the impossibility to move from a country to another. And we do know that today the world is a global place. Every refinery, for example, we have contractors coming from every part of the world, and we have spare parts coming from every part of the world, and we need manpower, we need additional manpower during the turnaround as everybody else. So all this pandemic, it has been the first example probably of a very important and significant impact, changing totally, dramatically the way of managing our work activities. People working from home, the need to maximize the tools in order to work from home. Somebody said COVID-19 pushed more to the digitalization than many chief executive officers because it became a need. And obviously, when you have a need, the change management is it's easy. Change is not avoidable. You have to make it happen in order to manage the situation. COVID-19 then rapidly became a problem everywhere in the world with different phases. Some countries started first, other countries came later. But obviously there was always a sort of loop because it's impossible that a country lives in isolation, and therefore wherever it was ramping up, then the countries around that specific country were also increasing the number of cases, etc. As of today, we might say that we had 3 big waves worldwide. Maybe we are going to the 4th one right now. In Europe, the situation is still increasing. So, and this changed our plans, and it also changed our plans in terms of turnarounds. If we go to the next slide, we can see the at the beginning of the 2020, let's say middle of February, Bahrain was there was no positive cases. The tests, the PCR were introduced more or less in the middle of February, and we were just assisting to whatever was happening around us and in the other in the region, in Europe, in China. And we had a very big turnaround planned in March. It was supposed to be 37 days with more than 2,000 people. Now, obviously, it is a peak of manpower, and during that peak of manpower, we have external manpower coming from other countries, for example, India, which is the main one. And so without having so many informations, without knowing exactly what COVID-19 was and how we could prevent the outbreaks, in a moment in which we had certainly technical issues about the organization of the TNI, but also we are humans. Everybody was worried about our families and what's going on and how can we manage it. So can we get out from this situation? We had to make a decision, and using our internal processes, we had a number of risk assessments, and we decided to postpone that turnaround without having a clear idea about when and if it was going to be possible that that TNI could happen. After the postponement, we had the confirmation that the decision was the right one because the number of cases in Bahrain started to increase. We were 500 cases per day, 600 cases per day. Bahrain is a country of 1,600, 1,600,000 1,000 people. So it was a significant impact. And however, we learned a number of things during that period. So when the TNI happened in October, we had the possibility to manage the TNI in a different way. First of all, while in March, in essence, masks were not available, not the number that we needed. If you have to change the mask every 4 hours and you have 2,000 people per day, so the number of masks required is impressive, and then the disinfectant, and then the need for recording the temperature of everyone. So when we moved the TNI in October, a number of additional measures were certainly possible. We had the rapid tests available in Bahrain. The PCR tests were the normality. I think that everybody has done at least 10 PCRs in 2020, but we decided also to change the planning of the TNI, just increasing the duration. We know that the pandemic had a very bad effect on the margins. Well, we used exactly that effect, because if margins are low, there is no need for a rush. So we decided not to use that much manpower coming from other countries, because it was just impossible in the light of the lockdowns. And we decided to count on the manpower we had available here. A key point was a different leadership style. In a moment in which physical distance more than social distance, I don't like social distance because we were never socially distant. How can we be leader if we cannot talk to people? How can we lead a team if meeting in person is considered a danger? So we had to reinvent our leadership style and our engagement of the contractors and our employees, because everybody was worried about families and about our own countries. We had the opportunity to put in place a number of measures which helped us in being successful. Later on, at the end of the year, we started vaccination. Vaccinations in Bahrain progressed actually very, very well and very fast. So by now, the majority of the population here in Bahrain has been vaccinated. But at the same time, the number of positive cases increased by far. So we had two contrasting effects. The first one, the more measures to prevent the outbreak, but at the same time, in line with the different waves we had worldwide, the number of positive cases increased. If we go quickly on the next slide, so we can see that also India, which is the key country helping us in terms of providing manpower to face the peak of manpower during the TNI. We all know that in April, last spring, India faced a very important peak of COVID-19 cases. So it was just impossible to get here the additional manpower we needed. So which criticality did we face during the pandemic? Next slide, please. So first of all, it was the lack of knowledge, at least at the beginning. What to do, how to prevent, it was just unknown. Lockdowns, outbreaks, stress, fear, it's important because when people are stressed, when people have fear, obviously the performance is not only technically, but let's not forget that HSE, the standard HSE, is also important. So we have to prevent LTIs, we have to prevent accidents. The shortage of Ppes, in essence, impossibility to travel, therefore you need to be independent in terms of manpower, in terms of all the activities needed during TNI. The risk of an outbreak during the maintenance activity, with obviously an important impact on the duration and on the technical activities. In that, at the beginning, the availability of tests was not as easy as today, and the vaccinations were not certainly available. So in BAPCO, we adopted some measures. If we can move to the next one, please. We said avoid the 3 Cs: confined spaces, crowded places, close distances. Well, this is exactly what happens during a TNI. You cannot avoid confined spaces because you have to access vessels and columns and other items. Certainly, a process unit under maintenance is a limited area, and you have 1,000 people over there. Therefore, it's absolutely a crowded place. Our TNI was by far the most crowded place in Bahrain in that period. And you cannot avoid close distance, because if you are working on that item and there are a number of people working on it, obviously you have to be close. So a number of actions were successfully defined. Certainly a number of risk assessments in order to adopt measures to prevent the outbreaks. Bahrain managed the outbreak in a fantastic way, with tests, with quarantines, and with promoting the vaccination. Babco was a bit more severe because we are a critical activity here in Bahrain. Therefore, we introduced more measures in addition to the ones introduced by the Bahrain government. But during the TNI, in essence, there was nobody who was not tested every day. When the vaccinations were introduced, we did not test every person every day, but whoever was not vaccinated has been certainly tested every day, which is an incredible number of rapid tests per day. I'm talking about 600 rapid tests per day, at least at the beginning. The planning, I already mentioned it, we extending the duration in order to reduce the requirement for external manpower, and counting on the manpower available in Bahrain, because it was safe, because it was vaccinated, because there was no need for any quarantine. We had to engage vendors remotely, using also some advanced tools like special helmets with camera and audio, so they could assist us remotely from every part of the world when doing local activities on site. I would say the most important items to me from the management point of view has been the stress management of our colleagues, both contractors and employees, and also the management visibility. In a moment when everybody was feeling lonely, during the TNI, all the management, all the leadership of the contractors, all the managers engaged in TNI, they have been there walking around, comforting people, making sure that whoever was engaged into the TNI was comfortable and had whatever was needed to be comfortable, because it was the key problem in that specific moment. Everybody was worried about the families. You know what happened in India. The majority of our contractors were from India, and in Bahrain as well. And I think that this has been the key action and an important lesson, how to modulate the leadership style in such a situation. And this is a lesson learned that we'll bring with us certainly in the days to come. The result of this is that, okay, technically we have done technically well, so the TNI has been on time, on cost, but the most important has been that the TNI, both TNIs to more than 2 million of man-hours without any LTI, and with a percent of positive cases, which has been less than 0.5%, when in Bahrain we had 4,000 cases per day. And with this, I'm happy to respond to questions, if any, and thank you so much for your time and for your attention. Thank you.
So, Gaetano, thank you very much. Thank you for that. That's an excellent journey through the pandemic for you, and the processes you went through. And I'm reminded when you started speaking about the very real fear that we all had at the time, and the uncertainty within which you're having to make such key decisions. So we're open up for questions. I've got a couple of questions myself, whilst others, if you want to submit questions in the chat box. But Gaetano, you talked about the change in leadership style and the approach in terms of supporting people's mental health and well-being almost through this pandemic, and how you'll transfer those into the new normal. What other silver linings, if for want of a better phrase, what other things did you do or learn during the pandemic that you're going to transfer into your new ways of working?
Well, you know, we had a number of people working from home. A refinery is not exactly the right place where you can have people working from home because the units are here, so you have to be on site. But you cannot be close to other colleagues, which is quite often compulsory because you have 2, 3, 4 people working on same item. The leadership style must change. People were scared. People were worried about their families. We had to talk to people, including physically, with all the measures, certainly masks and the distance. But the key point has been, hey guys, we are going to take an important challenge. The shutdown is going to be 1 month, 2 months. Whatever you do at work is important at home. Whatever you do at home is important at work. In the workplace, obviously, everybody has got a number of procedures, a number of standards. At home, we don't. A key message that we passed, hey, if you are compliant with the procedures that we define here at work, your family will be safer, because that's the best practice to have in place in this moment. No gatherings, social distances are important, not just here at work, but at home as well. People want to see the leaders when there is an issue. And showing people that we are confident that with our measures, with the measures we defined through risk assessment and through a number of procedures we have here in Babco, it's safe. It was the key. Working every single day all together as one team, you know, because COVID-19 has been like a common enemy, right? So it is easy to be on the same side when you have some danger and some common enemy. So we reinforced the already good relationships with our contractors, and there was just one team. We were not there to check if our contractors were doing well or not. We were all together, the leadership of the refinery, the leadership of the contractor, to make sure that everybody was comfortable and that everybody was feeling safe, that everybody had available whatever it was needed in order to manage safely that T&I. And this sense of humanity, if you like, which has been, to me, highlighted by COVID-19 everywhere, right? So when you cannot have something, you miss that. And when we could not talk to people, when we could not see our relatives, we understood how important it is, the human aspect. So to me, one of the key points to successfully manage this, these two turnarounds, and it is an important lesson, has been highlighting in the field this sense of humanity and being close to the people from the personal point of view, not from the technical point of view. It's important, the compliance is important, checking that everything is going well. But what we have done in essence has been showing, hey guys, we care about you. And we do know and we do appreciate that you are here working 8 hours, 10 hours, doing a complicated job, because this is a complicated job, but you are worried about your family, which might be at 3,000 kilometers from here, and you cannot see them and you cannot talk to them and you cannot go back home. And we do appreciate that when you go home, you are in a lockdown. So your life is for 60 days home, refinery home, without any other possibility to do anything else. And it has been stressful. So distractions are easy in such situations. And to me, the best result was not that we did not have positive cases, because in light of the measures, it was something we expected, but the best result has been that we did not have any lost time injury, any first aid. In same spirit, Babco is running the most important project ever with thousands of contractors. Certainly there was an impact because of COVID-19, but there was not a single day of stop of the activities, never. So I think that this way of managing the TNI is today part of our best practices, COVID-19 or not. We don't know how long it will take to go, but certainly it's not gone yet. But I think that many lessons that we learned during the COVID-19 will be good lessons for the coming years and the coming activities.
Yeah. So, and that's it's a powerful answer, and it's great to hear how humans were at the heart of your strategy, because they're at the heart of our business. And look, I can see you've also answered another question that's been asked in the chat box with what you said there. So I'm conscious of time, Gaetano, and I'm going to just say thank you very much for giving us such a thoughtful, thorough overview of how you handled the pandemic with the turnarounds, and obviously did an excellent job, and I commend you for that, and thank you very much for joining us today and for sharing that knowledge with us. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm now going to I think it's time to hand over to our for the next session. So I'm going to hand over to Glyn Adicott, who's going to Glyn's going to be your moderator for the morning session. So Glyn, thank you very much for doing that. Just to introduce Glyn to you all, he's a chartered energy engineer with over 25 years experience in pipeline hydraulic design and dynamic analysis, and he's undertaken more than 300 dynamic simulation studies on pipelines and networks in over 50 countries. So obviously very experienced in that field. As a director with the Hydraulic Analysis Group, who, by the way, are company members of the Energy Institute, and thank you for being company members and supporting us. Glyn has been involved in the installation of many real-time pipeline simulators around the world, which are used for leak detection, batch tracking, product mixing, optimization, event replay, training, and future state predictions. Glyn has also sat on several of our Energy Institute's steering groups over the last 10 years, and I'd like to thank you for that, Glyn. And perhaps the most important thing to know about Glyn is he's a Liverpool Football Club supporter, which means he must have exceptional taste, and is obviously a smart guy for supporting the right team. So I'm going to say thank you again to Gaetano for this morning, and I'm going to hand over to Glyn and wish you well for the morning session. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Martin, and yeah, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, I think that's probably worth saying now. The question I got most yesterday when I was moderating was, what's that picture behind me? So that's Anfield, so just to get that out of the way. So I actually had more questions on that than anything else. So first of all, again, thank you to Gaetano for a fantastic opening discussion, and I completely agree. I saw new strengths, hidden strengths in many of my colleagues over the past 2 years in terms of their ability and resilience when working from home and dealing with what was an awful time. So it's true that people are at the heart of every business, and I've been so impressed with everybody in our organisation. So I'll get straight on with the first session, which is titled Rebuilding. We've got 3 great speakers to start with, and you are, I'm afraid, stuck with me all this morning. So this is our first session, and we'll have 3 speakers. We've got questions at the end, so we'll let all 3 speakers do their bit, and then we'll have a question session at the end. I really do encourage you to submit questions in the Q&A session. It's great when we get that interaction from the audience. So please do ask questions, and we can enjoy listening to what our speakers have to say. So to get started, so our first talk is with engineer Mohammed Leshab, who is an energy engineer with Sega Autonomous Robotics. A great opening session from Ppes. He's going to talk about data drone-based solutions to enhance safety. So drones are becoming really, really common in our lives now. You see them all the time. So I'm really interested to hear what he has to say on this. Now, Mohammed is currently working at Sega Autonomous Robotics, and they're a leading drone data solution startup. Their headquarters in Amman with a regional presence spanning across the Middle East. So they basically implement quick and easy inspections for solar and wind farms, and utilize AI and big data technology by using an AI analysis engine in order to enhance efficiency and preserve the sustainability of renewable energy projects. So again, really important as we come out of COP26 to look at really innovative and disruptive methods of implementing safety procedures. So engineer Mohammed has inspected more than 1,000 megawatts of renewable energy projects and saved more than 1.5 million tons of CO2 emissions in the MENA region. And that, as a personal level, it's things like that. If everyone can start doing things like that and saving these vast sums of carbon, then we are well on our way to changing our working practices and how we use energy. So absolutely fantastic. So without further ado, I will hand over to engineer Mohammed, and I look forward to speech, and then we'll move on to the following speakers. It's the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mr. Glenn. Hello, everyone. This is Mohammed Leshab from Jordan. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of HSE and Sustainability Week for their efforts. As Mr. Glenn mentioned, I'll be talking about the drone solutions to enhance the safety and its uses in the sustainable energy today. First of all, we all are seeing the massive growing of drone technology worldwide. Drone service market this year is approximately 13.9 billion US dollars, and expected to reach more than 40 billion US dollars by 2026 at a compound annual growth rate of 23.8% during the forecast period. A massive growing. Drone now is being used in multiple civil fields, including construction, mining, energy, telecommunication, agriculture, waste management, environmental monitoring, and others. How drone can enhance the safety? There are a lot of reasons pertaining to efficiency and cost effectiveness that on why drones can help businesses, but they can also help workers. Drones make it easier to stay safer on site. It's now easier for inspectors to quickly figure out the problem without having to risk life and climb up, down, or through on their own. In business, like in life, the safety of people should be your priority. And drone technology has the potential to make the workplace safer for those working in hazardous situations. Those working in hazardous working conditions, like extreme weather conditions, irradiation, or toxic environments, and other dangers, can benefit from using drone technology. It's not just getting accurate data, it's gathering in a safe and responsible way. No need to send out teams to looking for radiation markers in an area, for example. Fly a drone with a specialized detection hardware, and you could save time and lives. Also, a drone can benefit in the hard-to-reach places. Many workers in construction and other industries have to be able to get up low, go through, or under structure to be able to maintain or inspect them. Inspecting for hard-to-reach or dangerous to reach places such as oil rigs, PV plants that are located in the deserts or bridges, and many other locations can be easily and safely explored with drones. This means less scaffolding, less ladders and lifts, and many other benefits. Also, using drone has its positive impact on the worker stress. having drones inspect and augment the duties that your employees do, help them achieve their goals quickly and with less stress of danger or injury. This does not just mean safer workers, but happier employees. People generally don't see danger of death as the best thing for them. And no matter how tough someone is still, it still causes either mental or physical stress onto a person. This will also result in less workplace accidents, and you can help to lower insurance costs. All in all, putting drones into hazardous conditions or hard to reach places is much preferable than putting your workers and teams into these dangerous situations. Safety for employees should be the priority for all businesses. It's more than just helping your business. Drones can help save people's lives. I would to give an example for using drone in hard to reach places. Singapore announced 2 months ago the commissioning of the largest floating PV plant in Singapore. And of course, you are talking about a plant that's floating above the sea. So it's definitely a hard to reach place. They announced that the maintenance and the inspection of this floating PV plant will be implemented via drones. So this is an example of how drone technology can be applied in hard to reach places. Let's move to the drone uses in sustainable energy. Drone now provides a complete end-to-end solution for the renewable energy projects, starting from the pre-construction stage to construction stage to commissioning stage and to the operation and maintenance stage. At the pre-construction stage, drone can give us a bird eye view to the land, and we can implement via drones a topographic survey to prevent last-minute adverse surprises and to confirm the land clearing is performed correctly. At the construction stage, drones can be used in progress monitoring to monitor the construction of the renewable energy project, whether it's a wind turbine, wind farm, or a solar PV plant. At the commissioning stage, drones are used to validate the quality of the installation to ensure that all the components of the renewable energy project have been installed correctly and according to the design. And at the operation and maintenance stage, drones can be used to implement aerial thermographic and visual inspections to identify, detect, localize, and prioritize 100% of all anomalies and defects that cause large loss in the annual production of the renewable energy site. Besides all these advantages, there are many other advantages other than the enhancement of safety in the renewable energy field, such as improved accuracy. By using drones, we are eliminating the human error, improved productivity. As I mentioned, by using drones, we can detect and localize all anomalies within certain payloads, not drones alone. Drones with certain software and certain payloads can detect and localize all anomalies and defects that cause large loss in the production. So by detecting these defects and after that working to fix these defects, we are enhancing the productivity of the renewable energy site by doing so. Also, it's more cost efficient compared to the, for example, thermographic inspection by the conventional methods, by the handheld cameras. It's more cost efficient, especially when we are talking about utility scale projects, mega scale projects. Also, using drones is more time efficient. We can do the inspection or the maintenance in a faster manner compared to the conventional methods. And let me give a practical example from our work. We proudly inspected the largest solar PV project in Jordan, which is Baynuna, about 247 megawatt, a huge PV plant. We proposed 2 weeks to implement or to finish the data capturing of the project, to implement aerial thermographic inspection. The other competitors who use conventional methods proposed from 2 to 3 months, 2 weeks compared to 2 to 3 months. So there's a great gap between using drones and implementing certain services via drones and implementing the same services via conventional methods. So there are many benefits of using this technology. To conclude, in general, drones are widely used in many fields today. Using this technology enables team to get more accurate data in a faster and cheaper way, and above all, in a safer manner. Thank you so much. I hope you found my speech informative and useful, and I'm happy to receive your questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Engineer Mohammed. Very interesting and great timing as well. So straight on to our next speaker then, which will be Abdullah Alamoudi, who's a safety engineer from SATORP, and he's going to talk about emergency shutdown system bypass management. So an experienced engineer working at SATORP Health, Safety, Security and Environment Department as a safety engineer. He has 10 years experience in varying process operations and HSE sectors in refining and petrochemical fields, considering NEBOSH International General Certification and Radiation Safety License in nuclear gauges. So, I've just noticed actually Abdullah is not on the call. So let's move on if we can. So hopefully we can get Abdullah back, but we'll actually move to our third speaker then, who I know I can see is here. So thank you, Lamis Al-Kaizi, Managing Director of LM Health and Safety, who will be talking today about rebuilding confidence and trust in the workplace in the wake of the ongoing pandemic. So Lamis is a senior occupational health and safety practitioner with 13 years experience, a commercially aware manager with a proven record of success both in the UK and Middle East. Experience includes his psychology background, multicultural bringing and fluency in several languages, an excellent communicator, trainer and leader, dedicated, structured and solution-driven professional, and excellent with technical skills. So Lamis, as I said, works in the health and safety OHS consultant as a practitioner and trainer. So I look forward to this presentation, Lamis. So the stage is yours, virtual stage.
Thank you, Glenn. Good morning, everybody, and good afternoon for those in different areas of the world. As mentioned, my name is Lamis Al-Kaizi, and I am a consultant, a health and safety consultant. And today I will talk very briefly. Of course, it's a big topic, but I'll talk very briefly about rebuilding confidence and trust in the workplace when people going back to the office. And I want to concentrate that it's going back to office, not going back to work, because obviously we didn't stop working, and some of us probably worked more when we worked from home. And so it's like building really on what Gaetano's presentation earlier this morning. So let me see, just click. There's a bit of a delay, I think, but I'll, there, correct. So, before we start talking about how we can rebuild confidence, I think it's important to understand the challenges of returning to office for a lot of the employees. A lot of people will relish on the idea of going back. So people have very mixed feelings, and I think Glenn mentioned something in the morning before, while we were waiting for everyone to join, that it'd be nice to have the face-to-face meetings. It'd be nice to have the interaction with our colleagues and others. Some people probably looking forward to have a structure in their day. So there is a starting time and a finish time for the work, which a lot of people working from home have not been able to have. They might want to switch their home office, or like the kitchen table, or the uncomfortable chair, and go back to a normal office setup. So a lot of people will relish on that idea. However, there is a big number of people who are not that happy about going back and are very reluctant on going back to the office. And this is mainly because a lot of us value the perks of working from home or working remotely. I personally have worked from home or remotely from 2017. Yes, I do go into client offices and go on site, but as sitting at the same desk, same office, I've not done since 2017. So I think a lot of people are worried about losing that flexibility. When do they start and when do they finish? How long do they take for their lunch break? Maybe do some errands during the day and then come back and work at a later stage. People might also don't want to do the commute. There is no commute to work when you are working from home. And the cost of the commute as well. So it depends where you are and depends who you see. Some people might be paying, and in which country, you might be paying a lot in your commute to and from the office, and the time it takes to commute as well. So some people might be commuting 45 minutes or more to go to their offices. So they relish these perks, but also some have realized that they are more productive when they are working from home, because originally the whole idea of going into an office and interacting with people might have been an uncomfortable idea, and or others like myself, probably, if I am to go to an office, and I remember when I used to work from an office for on a daily basis, I spend a lot of time interacting and talking to people, and then I'll be rushed to do what I had to do. So people realize that they are more productive and they don't want to lose that. And obviously, some might be worried about catching COVID. Some might have been comfortable not being protected in their own home. So these are all important challenges. And I believe managers and employers have to understand these challenges before they can plan for return to work. 1 second. So what can we do as employers? We have to evaluate the successes and the failures of remote working. So what did it work? What worked well and what didn't? What jobs can be done remotely and what can't? So if you are a control room operator or it's a maintenance team, no, probably the remote working is not the best thing. So evaluating these successes and failures and acknowledging where remote working worked. So it's not about just let's go back to how we used to be. It's acknowledging that it did work. And I believe for a lot of companies, it did work. Also assessing individual employee performance. So it's if people have reluctancy into going back to the office, it's assessing their performance, it's understanding their reasons. Why don't they want to go back to work? If it is because they're worried about catching COVID, so it's reassuring them with what type of cleaning and sanitizing processes do we have in the office, have we introduced as well? Whether people vaccinated or tested. I mean, I know it's very different, and Gaetano did mention how different it is in each country. So I am based in Abu Dhabi, and we have been pretty well controlled, as to say, with people testing very often and still testing, even to enter public places. So it's understanding those individual reasons. Is it because people have changed their childcare arrangements? Is it because some schools have not reopened? It's understanding these reasons and then evaluating the person's performance while they were working remotely. If we didn't lose any productivity from that person, maybe it is worth it to have the flexibility for that specific person to continue working remotely, or to be a little bit more flexible where they can work remotely some days and other days come into the office. Also, as employers and managers, we have to accept the need and accept that things are changing, not just pretend that we can go back to normal, because what used to be normal 2 years ago is not normal anymore. There are a lot of things that have changed, and not just the how people perceive working. It's also that the technology that is and the tools that are available now for remote working are well developed. So this is very important, and this is what employers have to think of when they are putting together plans. And really, the worst thing we can do with a lot of these changes, the worst thing we can do is not to have a plan. So employers need to have a plan for going back to work post-pandemic, if we want to call it. And in some instances, we're still during the pandemic. It's not gone. So it's having the plan. And the plan will include the points that we talked about initially. How will we evaluate the individual differences? How will we set clear objectives and targets to the people working remotely or working in the office, so that we can measure people's performance not just by seeing them in the office. Having regular update meetings with employees, and this is something that some of my clients have mentioned, that they actually might have not seen anyone for 2-3 months while they were working remotely. They've not spoken to their manager, they've just done whatever they have done, and that's obviously not productive. Having regular update meetings, having clear objectives and targets, so that people working remotely can achieve them. And the same for those who are coming back, because we have to think about those who do want to come back. We have to have these clear objectives and targets and regular update meetings. So that has not changed. And we also want to invest in our health and safety team and HR teams. Something interesting that came to light with the pandemic, that it was expected that the health and safety teams, the internal teams, knew what to do. But it was new for everybody. But it was expected they knew what to do. They are the ones that people pick up the phone and ask, do you think I can come back to work or not? So as part of the plan, what can we do? How can we equip our health and safety teams to produce, if we've asked them to produce a protocol for returning back to work, how can they produce it without the knowledge or without collaboration with HR? What can they do together? And review and adapt our policies. It is also very important to be flexible. Flexibility is very important here. Can we be flexible? Can we allow people to come in later or earlier into the office and leave depending on whenever they started? Can we allow people to work some days from home and other days from the office. If not, if we cannot do that, have clear explanation to your teams and to your members of staff why we cannot do that. Because that is very important, because people have worked for 18 months remotely, and companies seem to do well. So what is your explanation to we must go back to the office? Now, and really as well, because you will have people who are genuinely concerned about their health. They're worried about going and suddenly interacting yet again with a lot of people, sharing desks, or there are canteens that some have to go to. So having the robust workplace cleaning process is very important, and informing your employees that we do have that, and how often is it going to be, so that they are comfortable with going back to their work. And really managing with trust and leading with empathy is an important one here, that we trust our employees because they've done the work before, but we also want to understand if they don't have childcare, then maybe we need to be more flexible. This is really it's very brief and quick. I know it's a big topic, but very brief. Thank you very much. And any questions?
Thank you, Michelle. We'll take some questions once we've heard from Abdullah, who I can see is now back on the platform. It's such an important topic as well. I mean, it goes without saying that it's so vital. I mean, everything you've said struck a chord with me, and the challenges we've all had to face and learn. So yeah, I'm interested to see what questions get posted. And that was a really excellent brief topic, and I appreciate you. You know, there's a lot more we could cover in it, if we had the time. So I'll now hand over to Abdullah, if that's okay. Abdullah, I believe I can see you on the call. So yeah, looking forward to hearing about emergency shutdown system bypass management. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Glenn. And thank you for Energy Institute for managing and coordinating such a session. Starting with introducing myself, I'm Abdullah Al-Amoudi. I'm a safety engineer in setup, and I'm going to briefly explain to you how the, let's say, digital transformation of our emergency shutdown system in our company. Can you give me the control, Glenn?
I don't have that ability, so hopefully that's something that Francesca can sort out. You might have it now, hopefully.
Okay, so can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, for this presentation agenda, I'm going to introduce to you the setup briefly, and a background about the emergency shutdown system and what triggers us for the digital transformation, how our dashboards look like, and how this dashboard features considering the requirement of MOC and the continuous improvement chart for this change. Can we go to the next slide, please? They're saying one picture is equal to 1,000 words. These 10 years, since 2009 up to 2019, the picture will show setup, which is I'm presenting now, with a big vision, which is to be the Middle East and Asia leading performer in refinery and petrochemical, with a passion for the environment, for sure. Can we go to the coming slide? Okay. Setup is a big joint venture between Saudi Aramco and Total company. Can we go to the whole slide, please? It's a full conversion refinery. Go up to the end of this slide, please. There's several points, or give me the control, it will be better. Yeah, it's a full conversion world-class refinery and petrochemical complex located in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, eastern region, Jubail Industrial City. It's processing 460,000 parallel annually of Arabian heavy crude oil, producing LPG, gasoline, jet, diesel, coke, and sulfur. Beside the petrochemicals, let's say upstream or for the downstream usage, benzene, paraxylene, and propylene. Can we go to the coming slide, please? Next slide, please. It's full. Yeah, let's talk about the importance of the emergency shutdown system in all refineries or petrochemical and overall industries overall. The emergency shutdown system is an integral part as a safety barrier, as we know, especially from operation. Usually, the operation are doing this bypass for a reason, and it used to be monitored by our process control team, considering our randomly visit in safety department. Due to this importance of emergency shutdown system, to manage each bypass, uh, and even if we could get a live system available for everybody, can we go to the next slide? This idea came for transforming this to digitalized dashboard. And also this will save us for taking so much time for checking each area. For example, each industry, it's having several control rooms. Each control room has its own DCS. Each process will have their own teams. This will make the emergency shutdown bypass system pit controlling by each operation area and their own control system. We get this idea for having a live system for everybody, knowing exactly all our mitigations and risk assessment associated with each bypass. And we tried as much as possible to make it friendly and easy for everybody to see, and dedicated for a specific persons for as an authorized person for doing this bypass. Can we go to the next slide, please? How it look like? This screenshot from our system, our dashboard, which we're proud of, it's easily showing you, and in easy way, how much, what's the safety integrity level for each bypass, what's the type of the tags, if it's a fire and gas related, or if it's a flame scanner, or if it's under the emergency shutdown system, specifying the area which bypassed, and at your right hand you can see detailed view. In that part, once you click, each bypass tag will show you the reason for this bypass, the mitigation risk for taking it, and the duration. Each duration will be considered based on the required of the management of change. Can you go to the next slide, please? This dashboard features allowing us to apply all bypasses, disabling them for everybody. It will show the risks for each one with the mitigations on them, the reason for this bypass, as I told before, and the duration. And also it's easily having a statistical analysis and having a live system with 4 times updating per day. It's a good and accessible for all employees. Can we go for the next slide, please? Yeah. In this table, we show the approval matrix for having these bypass based on the cell and the duration. The responsible or the authority for doing this will be clearly mentioned here. For example, once the cell safety integrity level is 3, for example, and the bypass will exceed the 12-hour, then the area superintendent shall approve this, and management of change shall be raised because it's exceeding 12-hour. And it's here clearly shown if it's depend about the severity and the integrity level with respect to the duration the authority and the requirement of MOCs will be shown here. Can we go to the coming slide? Does it end? Yeah, this process is under PDCA, Plan to Check Act. We start the idea since 2019, and it goes through a continuous enhancement and improvement. For example, up to this year, we are adding some tags, some specific loops need to be updated. So it goes through a continuous improvement process. And we had, can you go for this next slide, please? Some optimization for this change, such as including all related process safety aspects in one dashboard. It's very hard to link it to a system and make it live, but all challenges can be made. We face so many challenges. First of them, making the dashboard alive itself by incorporating around 3,000 tags to the system. And then how can we make our employee aware about it and how they can use it? We try to design it in a very friendly and easy way in order to make the operator and board man easily executing the things there. And we incorporate it in daily review, of course, by the management in daily meeting. So many enhancements, and the resources, exhausting the resources were dropped because it were a manual, and we need to go to each control room to get the bypassed by the operators, considering the human error and such things. Currently, the boardman, whenever he have any issue, they can, with considering the work process and the approval point, do this bypass, and we can review it easily from our offices. Considering the COVID-19 issue last days, it were very easy to control the things within the office. Our coming plan is to incorporate, as I told, the process safety aspects, MOC status, the incident analysis, the integrated operation window within one dashboard. So all process safety aspects will be available on one dashboard, easy for everybody and easy to control as well. That's from my side, and I'm welcoming any question.
Thank you very, very much indeed. That was another fantastic presentation. Really good, Abdullah. So really, really interesting. So that's the last of our speakers in this session. So we'll now move to the Q&A session. So I'd ask if our three speakers could put their cameras and microphones on, and we've already got quite a few questions to fire through. So I will begin with the first question for Lamis. If you could switch your camera on, Lamis.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yes, the first question is from Abdul Latif. So yeah, a name I definitely recognise. Is so first of all, yes, good morning, Abdul Latif and Lamis. Are you aware of studies show if working remotely improves health and safety performance?
No, that's the I'm not going to say I'm aware of studies that that show that. So working remotely is obviously can improve the health part of the health and safety discipline, as to say. So it can improve it depending actually on how whether people like going into the office or not. That is, and we talked about that. Some people might already have some kind of social discomfort of being in places where there are a lot of people. And you do see that on some of the colleagues. They don't like coming in. When they come in, they try to avoid everybody, and they go into onto their desk. So it could probably improve the health, their health. But I can't say I'm aware of studies specifically done for this purpose. No.
Okay, thank you, Lamis. So I've got a question now from Mohammed. If you could switch your camera on, please, Mohammed, so we can see you. So this is from Mark Scanlon. So again, good morning, Mark. How is the proximity of UAVs controlled to prevent unintended impact? So the position relative to plants containing dangerous substances. how do you deal with that?
Oh, actually, I'm not expert in this field, in the chemical field. I'm an energy engineer at Sagar Drone. I know more about the drone applications in the energy field, more than its applications to monitor, let's say, toxic substances in a room or etc. But for sure, a drone with certain payload, with certain sensors, can, for example, monitor the concentration of the toxic substances in a room or utility. I think it's doable.
Okay, thank you, excellent. So I've got a question now for Abdullah. If you could please put your camera on, Abdullah. So it's again from Mark. So thank you for describing your ESD management process, and it's good to hear about the application of a digitized system. Do you get cases where ESDs continue to be bypassed so that the defeat becomes normalized? And if so, is there more challenge with higher SIL rated ESDs, e.g. SIL 2 and 3?
Thank you, Mr. Mark. We had some cases where the EDS continues to be bypassed before this system implementation, because now it's easily whenever it's bypassed for 12 hours, the whole company can know this tag is bypassed for 12. For example, 12 hour, then it's required a management of change. When management of change is required, that means the whole design will be reviewed and changed. So it's impossible to have a continuous tags currently without any clear justification by the management. So this helps us to avoid continuous normalizing any emergency shutdown.
Thank you very much.
My answer.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I've got another question here for Mohammed from Muntada. Is any industrial company in the world applied this fly drone technology? If yes, can you tell us about the outcomes?
Yes, for sure. My company is one of them. Yeah. We are applying the drone technology in many industries, as I mentioned, in construction, mining, in energy, agriculture, environmental monitoring, and other fields. And of course, there are many international companies such as Ppes, for example. It's one of our competitors actually in the region and in the world. It's worth mentioning that we are based in Jordan, but we have a presence scattering in the MENA region, in UAE, and we will open another branch in Saudi Arabia very soon. So hope to keep in touch.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to selfishly ask a question here, because it's something that we've been battling with as a small business, and it's dilemmas. So we've actually not sort of fully reopened our office yet. We've mainly stayed working from home for a number of reasons. Our office isn't particularly COVID friendly, but also we have quite a number of our workforce who are close to retirement age, and we want to actually protect our employees. So if you could give me 3 sort of key actions I could take with opening the office, I'd be very keen to adopt them.
For opening the office?
Yeah, so to encourage people to come back into the office. How do I reassure people? How do I make them feel comfortable with coming back to work in terms of speaking to them?
I think the cleaning protocol for the office has to be enhanced, so that people who are reluctant, and if you're thinking about people who've got low immune system, or some might be chronic illnesses, or at the age where you want to be careful, is to ensure that you have a better cleaning protocol and to communicate this cleaning protocol. That would be point 1, the first point I would say. Second one is to do these individual assessments. I think if employees know you've looked at it, if you're a small company and you can actually do individual assessments, it's really like we used to do the ergonomic assessments, but to do the individual assessment, to sit down with people, what are your worries, to assess how they've worked before when they were doing the remote working. And if they've done, and if they see you doing that, they might be more comfortable coming back, because they see it's not just about, okay, we've opened up everything, off you come, everybody. I think that's important. Now, if people are commuting, now I don't know where you are in the UK.
We're based in the UK, so in Leeds, in the north of the UK.
Okay, so if they're commuting using public transport, then you might use that and reassure people. If you're using public transport, then you don't have to come at for the 9 o'clock start. Avoid rush hour and come later. Something that probably we used to do with new mothers or expectant mothers. It's giving that reassurance. I think when employees know that you're thinking about them as an individual, they will be a little bit more comfortable. But if a person is not comfortable, and if they are more productive at home, then why bringing them back home, back to the office?
Yeah, and that's just the challenge we face. Yeah, no, thank you. That's really, really helpful. So we surely can have a network break for whatever. I'm just going to ask one last question, if I can, to Abdullah. So immediately, so thank you, Lamis. So immediately drawn to your presentation, Abdullah, was the dashboard. I love dashboards. I absolutely they are the future. So how easy was it using the dashboards to engage with the workforce? Did it make your job a lot easier?
Yeah, really, Glenn. It's make the whole life, the difficult part is implementing the thing and make the people, the fear of unknown and the resistance of something new from the board over it, these things. But once they adopted, we adopted in 6 months, huge improvement and easy work for us to capture the whole refinery bypassed within 1 second. That's really helped us a lot.
Fantastic. Really good. So well, I think we'll call an end to this session now. So that was absolutely super. 3 really good speakers, again, very topics, and I found it thoroughly interesting and some really good questions. So if you please feel free to carry on posting your questions in the Q&A, and they can be answered in person by the speaker. But we'll take a short networking break now, so 15 minutes. So if we can be 14 minutes, if we can be back at 12:30 promptly, that would be great, because we've got another a few great speakers to hear this from this morning. So thanks very much for your time, and enjoy your comfort breaks. So hello everybody, and welcome back. I hope you managed to get yourself a tea or coffee and are ready for the next session. So without further ado, we'll move on to our next speakers. So I would like to welcome Karen Villas, who's a principal consultant process safety at Baker Risk, and Karen will be talking about navigating the green waters of global safety requirements. So I have to say, first of all, that Karen's actually calling in from Houston. So I have to say thank you very much, because I know it's not a sociable hour where you are at the moment. So that is genuinely really appreciated, Karen. So Karen is talking about a topic that's close to my heart, because it's in the hydrogen economy, and it's really a critical area now. The UK is really pursuing hydrogen quite aggressively. There are many hydrogen projects on the horizon, and it's an area covered really well by Karen. I don't particularly feel that the governance around it is particularly solid at the moment. We're tending to use a lot of oil and gas practices. So Karen's paper will discuss the challenges of navigating through the multitude of international and local regulatory requirements and recommended best practices that are applicable to the rapidly expanding hydrogen economy. And rapidly expanding, I think, is the key word here. It's just it's stratospheric in the UK at the moment, with the number of applications for hydrogen. So Karen is a director of regional business development North America at Baker Risk in Houston. She's a principal consultant in the Houston Process Safety Group, specializing in consequence and risk modeling. She's worked extensively with clients in the refining and petrochemical industries, with a focus on risk quantification and mitigation of blast, toxic, flammable and fire hazards. In addition to servicing clients' process safety needs, Karen oversees the business development and marketing group, focusing on industry education of key risk management topics through conference technical content coordination and media content development. So the stage is yours, Karen, or the virtual stage in this case. And yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing about what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you for that introduction, Glenn. And also thank you for the conference sponsors and organizers for bringing us together for this informative event. As a brief introduction to Baker Risk, we've been closely involved with hydrogen safety research and development and testing for over 30 years. Hydrogen safety challenges are not new or novel for us, and we have been working to help industries better understand these safety concerns. Before we get started, Glenn said something yesterday that I very much agree with, and that is how this organization is great because each discussion and topic is different, showcasing the breadth of experience within the group. I'm now going to take us on a slightly different track with a focus on hydrogen risk, which ties to the carbon goals discussed yesterday. For the most part, we have been focused on how to hit carbon goals from technology and infrastructure standpoint. However, it's just as important to focus on how to get acceptance from the public for the support and adoption of alternative fuels, especially hydrogen, which people may already have biases against due to historical events. To overcome this hesitancy, it is essential that we demonstrate safe, or is at least as safe as reasonably practicable, operations and infrastructure. However, unfortunately, as the hydrogen economy booms, it appears that the global regulatory requirements are struggling to keep pace and may not be consistent with best practice. We have already seen the fact that, unfortunately, there will be process safety incidents. In 2019, there were 3 hydrogen fueling incidents within a month of each other. The UNO-X incident in Norway, shown here on the right, resulted in the closing of multiple stations across multiple countries in Europe, the shutdown of local vehicle sales, and ultimately heavy fines. Shown there on the bottom left is the explosion and fire at the Air Products facility in Northern California, which caused infrastructure disruption of hydrogen distribution for months, and caused a lot of local vehicle owners to abandon their cars. And also not shown here was an explosion in Korea, which resulted in mass protests against future expansion of hydrogen fueling networks. So with this in mind, our goal moving forward should be to demonstrate to the public that we are addressing both the safety and network infrastructure risk to operate to an acceptable level of risk. The question is, do the regulatory requirements with respect to safety get us there? Well, as this slide indicates, there certainly are enough of them. This world map shows some of the common ones referenced around the world, but this is certainly not inclusive of all documents that touch on hydrogen safety. If you study the range of documents as I have, you may come to the same conclusion, and that is that these documents were never written for the type of infrastructure we are seeing hit the project list today. In fact, some of the technologies that we're seeing operate at total holdups that make them completely unregulated in certain regions. What we do know from history, though, is that when industry is not strictly regulated, an incident eventually will happen that changes the landscape of future regulatory requirements. Regulations are reactive, not proactive. Throughout history, across the globe and in all industries, we have witnessed incidents that have caused such impacts that regulatory change is swift, often resulting in huge capital expenditures to comply. This is also true for hydrogen adjacent industries, where we have seen vapor cloud explosions drive change in perspective with regards to process safety. Here on this slide, we see just 3 examples. There on the left, you see the Flixborough incident, which along with a couple of other events in Europe resulted in the Seveso directive. In the center there, you see the chemical complex for Phillips in Pasadena, which ultimately resulted in the creation of OSHA. And then, of course, probably the most well-known is the 2005 BP Texas City incident, which drove the adoption of API 752, 753 for permanent and temporary building sidings. So my question to this group is, what will be the event that leads to reactive regulation of hydrogen, and will you be prepared as a company? While we do see different regulations around the world, as we discussed earlier, nearly all of them specify hazard studies that focus on spacing distances and sometimes HAZOP or LOPA. Very rarely do we see these requirements for detailed modeling and/or detailed risk assessment. While spacing distances are great for asset damage purposes, and HAZOP LOPA is a great way to look at operational risks, neither involves the rigor of detailed consequence or risk assessment, which will most likely be the result of any reactive regulation. Why does this matter? Well, let's take a look quickly at the NFPA2 bulk storage distances. Note that in this figure on the left-hand side that the maximum distances to receptors shown is 46 feet. If we compare this to the figure on the right, which shows a flammable dispersion cloud from detailed modeling for a 2,400 PSI release from a 3/4 inch hole, we see that the resulting dispersion to even just the lower flammable limit is over 120 feet, which is well beyond that 46-foot spacing distance shown in the spacing requirements of NFPA2. The next question is, well, what does this look like if this were to ignite from a jet fire perspective? And what we can see here is that the 46-foot maximum spacing table distance is, again, well within high heat flux exposure. This really shouldn't be surprising to us, considering that spacing distance are typically based on very small leaks for asset damage purposes only. Almost all the regulatory requirements out there say this is okay, but these aren't even the largest releases we could expect to see. So how do we feel about hydrogen tube trailers, as shown in that figure on the left, being allowed to be spaced 24 feet from cars, which are representative of an idling ignition source? And when we're talking about public confidence and addressing safety, are spacing distances enough? Well, the other thing that spacing tables don't account for is congestion confinement, or basically the stuff that contributes to explosion energy. Layout matters, site location and the neighbors matter, and fuel type matters. This series of videos here highlights the fact that very subtle changes in hazard scenarios, so in this example, 2% changes in concentration, can dramatically change the result of any vapor cloud explosion from hydrogen. The test rig that you're about to look at represents 6 by 6 by 6 cubes of congestion, and there's about 8 of them there in a row. And what I really want you to focus on is to listen for the audible differences in that explosion energy as we ramp from 18% to 22%, which ultimately takes us from deflagration to detonation. Oh, sorry about that. Looks like we're not going to get the sound, so pay attention to the explosion energy there. And then finally, you can see that just those minor changes causes a big difference in those energies off of that explosion scenario. So it is important, or highly recommended at a minimum, that you look at hazards with site-specific dispersion, fire, and explosion models. Spacing tables cannot capture things like site geometry and the proximity to personnel, off-site populations, and so forth. And neither can software that treats every site as an equal location. My goal here today was to learn from the past and encourage us to push beyond the current regulatory requirements set for hydrogen. Let's be proactive and do detailed risk assessments that address the unique characteristics of hydrogen. I like hydrogen: green, blue, turquoise, all the colors of the rainbow that seem to be out there. In the discussion of hope versus hype, I want to make sure that hope wins. Let's show the public and the regulators that we believe in hydrogen so much, we're going to go above and beyond requirements because we have learned from adjacent industries and know what we need to do in order to keep personnel safe. And with that, I'd just like to thank everybody for having me here today. I'm happy to address any questions you have either now in the panel discussion or offline. My email's there if you'd like to reach out to me.
Thank you so much, Karen. That's really good. That's a really critical and important area that we all need to look at in the energy industry, because hydrogen is, I believe, is here to stay, and we need to get it right. So thank you. Yeah, absolutely. There'll be one more session speaker to hear from now, and then we'll move to the Q&A session. So I'd encourage you to submit questions through the Q&A panel so we can answer them in 10 minutes time. But without further ado, now I'll move on to we have 2 speakers with us now. So we have Dr. Samantha Horseman and Mark Stanley, and they're going to discuss the HSE and human machine interface technologies. So basically, they'll be sharing integration of 5 core enablers linking human machine interface technology with ergonomic optimization, safety, gamification, Kaizen activity mapping, real-time data, linkage to 3D, 4D simulation, and broader AI tool sets. So Dr. Horseman is a globally recognized inventor, innovator, and entrepreneur. Apologies. So yeah, so there's yourself, Mark, and Samantha. Yeah, so Samantha is a globally recognized inventor, innovator, and entrepreneur spanning an impressive 2 decades at Aramco. In addition, she's a highly motivated thought leader as a result of a human interface portfolio of 60 granted patents, 15 prototypes, 22 publications, and a total of 25 local, regional, and global awards. And this recognition resulted in being one of the first recipients of the Aramco President's Excellence Award in 2014. She continues this pioneering work through leading the Venture Growth and Innovation Ecosystem Vertical, the Aramco Entrepreneurship Center, and she's the president of the Innovation Ecosystem Society and director for the Google for Startups Dhahran chapter. Additionally, following her research contributions to the World Economic Forum Global Study Workplace Wellness Alliance in 2013, she's continued to accelerate her work in her role as president of the MENA Institute for Health and Productivity Management. So Mark Stanley is the consulting department specialist consultant in the Saudi Aramco Process Optimization and Change Management Division, a highly experienced business change and transformation consultant specializing in Lean Six Sigma, project management, supply chain, ITIL, service management, and large-scale business organization change and design deployment across the whole change lifecycle. With 35 years experience and outstanding record of delivering innovative high-stretch results, experienced in strategic target operating model designs, business process design, and revolutionized end-to-end services. And whilst at Saudi Aramco has managed large-scale operational model designs, more recently over 2 years experience in upstream unconventional drilling. He's currently studying for a PhD in Advanced Technology Introduction with an MSc in Lean Operation. Goodness me, that is a lot. So you're managing to do a PhD on top of all this as well. Well, without further ado, Mark, the floor is yours, and I look forward to hearing your presentation.
And hopefully you can see us okay on the video. For me, this is a really huge pleasure. Glenn, Martin, and Francisca, thank you for all your help. Again, a great privilege to be here presenting. It's been a long time since I presented at any sort of seminar. Now, here's a question for everyone. Can you think about what's the typical cost to bring a new patent to market? And maybe how long to commercialize that? Oh, it's going forward a little bit too quick there, okay? So, in a Aramco's way, we can be talking hundreds and thousands, even millions to bring a new patent to market. It can be taking up to 7 years or more. What we're going to be sharing with you here today is a snapshot of a new mechanism of how we're working very closely with our wired partners and loss prevention department to bring in more customer-facing technology, radical technology that we believe will form the value chain linkage from lab to market and speed up the introduction of that IR4 and that radical technology. For me, I think this is a really exciting opportunity. It directly also links to COVID reduction because some of our sensing technology can even now monitor some of the early symptoms of potential illness or disease, and especially in our oil fields, it allows us to make sure that we can man our productivity suitably and look after our staff. Next slide, Tim. Okay, so I think, Glenn, you've already covered in the amazing background for Sam. I mean, she's like an energy bubble. I mean, she's infectious, to be honest. And where I bring is some of that process background. But on the next slide here, the real partnership is bringing together the ecosystem of patents that have already been out there in the field from an Aramco standpoint, but bring what our department in organization consulting does. We have the face to the customers. We understand their products and their services. We bring the organization design change. We bring the understanding of the processes, the technology, the back-end process performance, the business change. We bring some of the missing elements that will allow us to bring new technology to market quicker. Sorry, this slide's again a little bit quicker, I do apologize. On this slide here, at the heart of this is the IntelliSense portfolio, the smart PPE. Okay, we're driving here to reduce 80% of our injuries on the job accidents, but also radically enhancing our productivity. We're picking one example here within the oil fields across Aramco, where we can have 3,000 different rigs, and we're trying to be, over the last few years, these are kind of rolling quickly forward for some reason, so forgive me, yeah. We're trying to radically reduce our drilling time. End-to-end drilling time can be 40 or 50 days, depending on the depth of the well. If we can just save a few minutes, a few seconds, we're going to save billions. And we've already proven some of this already. The first one of these bubbles, yeah, even before this first bubble, for me, for Samantha was passionate. She worked as a clinician in the hospitals. She saw people getting injured. She saw disease. She saw sickness. And she became passionate about how can she develop more robust, smarter PPE. The first bubble in this system is showing work that's already been done. Having this headset links to the alpha, beta, gamma waves in someone's head allows you to detect their decision. She's made a prototype of linking this to machinery. You imagine now that you can make a device move to you, open a valve, trigger an operation just by what's in your head at that moment. I haven't got to wait in the case of my oil well drilling. Is someone up the monkey board 300 foot up in the air? Frank, are you up there? I know instantly that he's already there at the right time, at the right place, just when I need him to be there. But having that interface. Next slide. And again, at the heart of this is the smart PPE. And I know other companies have got some similar things, but here we have a complete set, an ecosystem. We have a smart helmet with small, very intricate sensors. As I've already said, detecting them gamma decision waves. Smart gloves, where I can have tactile sensors, ultrasonic sensors. I've got my glasses, I should be wearing them now to be honest, where I can visually detect what's happening around me in my surroundings. I've got geosensors in my safety boots. So if I'm walking around my oil field, I know exactly where I am at any one time. I've got a belt around my waist where it's got geosensors, gyro sensors. So if I'm on a well and maybe I'm leaning over a platform and I'm tilting too much, it can detect how much tilting, how much rolling am I doing. And it's sad, we have had, injuries, we've had deaths, or where we can't locate someone. Now we have the ability to detect where anyone is at any moment in time, and hence bring more safety to all of our operations, not just upstream, but also downstream. And some of this technology in PPE is already about to be being rolled out. Sam, next slide. With the range of sensors that we have, the ability to manage the blood pressure, look at our body temperature, look at our stress, even detect if I'm getting stressed, you know what, the muscles in my jaw tighten. Or if I'm getting tired of a long shift and I'm in the heat in the sun, especially in Saudi, 50 degrees plus, and my eyes start blinking. We can now detect, and we've proven we can see, but it's an indication of tiredness. If someone's getting stressed and they're not moving correctly, it's tied also to the muscle mass and the person's own body ergonomic design, so we can detect, picking and maybe selecting the right people for the right job. And we know when people are getting tired. Just imagine now creating that digital twin, linking all these sensors to someone's body and how they move. And we've already been rolling some of this out already. So that's quite exciting. Sam, next slide. Okay. We have plenty of simulation in Aramco. Here's just an example where we have some people who've been wearing the headset, looking at a driving scenario, because there's plenty of these models out there, looking at the stress, looking at avoiding hazards, and seeing how the brain can interact. But in Aramco, we've got the cave. We're blessed. We have a 3D and 4D cave where we can simulate what it's like to be in any one of our operations. So you can be there. Now, for those that have got young boys, well, mine are like 15 and they're addicted to PS5. I don't play games, okay, but they got the headset, they've got their game controller, and they can now get feedback. They can get the vibration, they can even get the temperature, they can get the movement directly to their hands. Now we can take some of this and put it into our cave simulation environment. I can be on a drilling rig and I know I've got the throttle at my hands. I know I'm pushing the drilling bit further, tighter, backwards. I can completely simulate my operations and I can apply best of breed practices. We've also been applying smart percentile KPIs to build in gamification, so we can create competition between our regs, but in a safe manner, okay? And what we have done, again, I love this one, the ability to have intelligence, mobile intelligence in our fingertips. We can now flag both yellow, amber, and red warnings. And if there is a potential event, we have the opportunity to intervene. We have the ability to have a command center where we can be mapping all of our operations, all of our people in a certain facility. If something goes wrong, on the mobile now, we can say what the intervention is and what remedial action we could be taking. Sam, next slide. So here we are linking all of these technologies together. A lot of these have already been proven and been validated, and now we're just creating an ecosystem of linking them all together. We've already started to pilot on some of our rigs. You know, we've also started to look at how can we optimize the ergonomic factors. Again, I will say this, on a typical drilling rig, if I can, over the last, I think it's 8 or so years, drilling time end to end has gone down by 50%. If we want to save an hour now, it's very, very difficult. But saving a minute, a second, an hour can end up being millions of opportunity to us. Now, what my own department does, we bring expertise, Glenn, in process, taking out lean, taking out waste. You can see in the bubble there, you know, preventing mistakes happening, preventing incidents happening. We got SMED, we got just in time, we got TKIM, we got a whole arsenal of different consultancy transformation toolkits at our fingertips. We're also driving IR4 cloud technology to do predictive analysis. Coupled with this now, and Mohammed, to your point about drones, we're very interested in drone technology. When you're looking at an oil field and you're looking at an oil rig, the size of 5 different football pitches, and you've only got 20 people on that team, how did the foreman manage his staff? How did he know where they are? And to your point, we can spot abnormalities. We can spot production, localized issues. We can stop clashes with our vehicle and our assets moving around the place. Because there's no way a foreman, if he's got bad Wi-Fi signals in the field, he can know what's going on. So by using the drone technology, a couple of drones up there, we can monitor visually all our operations and speed up our productivity. And if we spot there's an incident with one of our workers through the smart PPI, we can have more timely intervention. Sam, next slide. Probably a couple of clicks now, you can keep going. So now we can start to see the overall system. I don't know if you're going to hear the sound effect now. Sorry, it's going to go clink, clink, clink. Back up again, Sam, sorry. Yeah, the missing link is the linkage to the human-machine interface, okay? But also taking the process optimization toolkit and linking that in there. So we've now created this ecosystem around proven patents. We've already proven all of these elements individually, and now we're kind of interlinking them together as a part of our longer journey. And for me, this is a unique opportunity. We can leverage, we've already been speaking to our legal team. We know we can leverage our existing patents, and this is scalable now directly at this moment in time, okay? I'm just going to zoom in now to one example. Within drilling, and you hear a typical simplified picture here. Glenn, so is that okay for time? For non-productive time, invisible lost time, what you need to try and do is reduce operational time. We've got real-time analytics now, AI, IR4, that can measure every single one of our operations. I go a bit quicker, down to the millisecond, down to 5 milliseconds. We can now look at our drilling, our reaming down, our slip to slip, whatever. We can look at 5 second, sub 5 second intervals, do time-lapse video, reverse analysis, and we can look at small operational ergonomic things that need to be changed. The whole system here would be looking at how we optimize our operations, having more sensors to de-risk and make things a lot safer, looking at how we manage stress, how we have a smarter PPE. There's a whole suite set of different aspects of this design. We've already proven now that it's actually into billions of opportunity already. We're now hoping to scale this a bit farther. We actually believe also some of our sensors will be linking to COVID reduction and so forth. I'm just going to quickly hand to Sam. Sam, do you want to give a quick closing comment?
Hi there, Glenn. Hi, everyone. And it's a great opportunity to think about it. The theme of this session today is about rebuilding. And here we have this incredible opportunity as an industry to have this connected digitized, hyper-connected workforce that can give you real-time data. And think about it from a COVID-19 perspective. Just imagine thinking back 2 years ago, if we were wearing IntelliSense, we could have been tapping into those heat maps, those specific red flags, those areas of high temperatures, elevated heart rates, elevated respiratory rates, and then being able to look at very, very impressive ways to look at our pandemic. So as we rebuild, as we innovate, I think we've got a great journey ahead of us in the industry, and it's wonderful to be here to share this work. And I think we're going to open up for questions. So over to you, Glenn.
Yeah, thank that. Absolutely superb. Two great presentations. Thank you both so much, and to Karen as well. So yeah, that was a great session. So we're going to open up to questions. Now, I could already see there's a few questions that have been posed. If I could ask Karen to put your camera on, thank you. So I'm going to shamelessly hijack the questions to begin with, because something that I've always sort of mulled over and people talk to me about is ammonia, and whether ammonia is a safer way and a more viable way of transporting hydrogen. So if you don't mind, Karen, I'd just like your thoughts on ammonia, because I hear a lot about it, but not sure where we are.
Yeah, so that's an interesting question you asked there. Ammonia, hydrogen, everybody knows hydrogen has the explosive characteristics, and what people miss with ammonia is just how toxic it is. So while hydrogen may have more localized high explosion energies, ammonia has that opportunity to drift for far distances and impact people from a toxic perspective. So my risk analyst response to that is that either can be used safely within a realm of acceptable risk. It's just making sure it's addressed properly up front, and not done as kind of a reactive thing once an event has happened.
Okay, excellent, thank you. And a question now for Samantha and Mark. So do you feel, it's from an anonymous attendee, but do you feel that the safety benefit of monitoring a person's every movement through equipment worn justifies the loss of freedom and privacy that is caused by being required to wear such equipment? The concept certainly has big brother concerns to some extent.
So what I find really interesting, the people, certainly with our support from Julian and Workover, people find it very actually non-intrusive, because we care how we put the message. We're caring about people's safety, and actually there's an appreciation now. Look, you're working under extreme temperatures, you know, poor visibility maybe. Actually, we've got the data now to back up why it's such a stressful job. It actually can be quite good for our people to realize that we are monitoring and we're actually caring about them. And because actually, look, especially I'm talking about drilling, the rigs that, you know, the people out there are competitive. If they can take on board any technology that's going to help them do a better job for the company, they want some of it, to be honest. So I think so far it's been quite a responsive feedback from the teams out there. We're trying to do what's right for them, but we also care about the company.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much, Mark. Great. That's another question I got from Karen. Do you foresee regulations being developed specifically for hydrogen operations? And if so, how do you expect they will differ from regulations for other flammable and explosive materials such as methane or propane?
So I think this will be geographically different depending on where you are. I think some regions will just make it mandatory to apply existing regulations for adjacent industries to hydrogen. I guess specific to this question, a really good example of how this might be affected would be the propane, the TSSA regulation in Canada, the Ontario province. There was, I think it was 2008, there was the Sunrise propane BLEVE incident at a filling station, which resulted in a BLEVE and millions of dollars of asset damage. And as a result, they now have a land use planning risk assessment requirement for propane fueling station. I foresee something like that happening with hydrogen. And you do already see it in some locations. So for example, the Netherlands, Holland, they all have some regulatory requirements around risk assessment as well.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, very good. So a question, really, I think it's probably an unfair question to ask Mark, because you just blow me away with that presentation about where we're going. But I guess, where's this going to lead? Where can we take this in the future? What on earth is it going to look like in 10 years' time? Because progress in this area is just stratospheric at the moment.
Well, I mean, Glenn, what a lovely question. To be honest, our team here, like, really excited. the benefit that we know we've already got a proven ecosystem, but it's like, oh, why did people not kind of merge all the technologies together? And if we now, I mean, things are economically, we got to drive productivity. We got to, we're squeezed all the time to drive even more. So our partners upstream and also now downstream want some of this because they need new radical technology. We're getting measured against how do we apply IR4 and big data and blockchain and everything else. This is leveraging all of that. And with the safety element, we're getting pulled to want to help this. So we do though see that some of the technology can be applied now, it already is, but it will still be, Glenn, as your point, there'll still be a 5-year journey because it can involve so much more. Okay, so this will be a journey, but we know we can do it now, and that's the difference, and it will make a difference now.
Oh, it's inspiring. Yeah, it's so exciting. It was a great time to be in the energy industry. It's really interesting. So thank you. That's great. So another question from Karen from Mark Scanlon. So thanks again, Mark, for contributing your questions. So thank you for setting out the differences between code separation distances and credible major hazard events. So codes like an FPA2 use a premise like setting separation distances based on small scale leaks from piping or joints or hoses, whereas your graphs and modeling refers to catastrophic loss of containment.
So as I mentioned, spacing distances are typically more for fire, asset damage, and prevention of knock-on effects. So it typically does do things like small fan leaks or plug losses. So we're looking on the smaller scale. The graphs that I showed were actually about 3/4 inch leaks, which we would consider more highly likely, but certainly not catastrophic. Catastrophic within the hydrogen space, we're talking large loss of containment events that would be up to full bore piping, which we can imagine would be much worse. So spacing distances, again, have always been for asset damage. What we want to do is start thinking about the wider implications of personnel, both on-site and off-site.
Okay, thank you. And questions are flooding in. So a question from Omar for Mark. What impact to the overall project cost do you think these new PPEs could make, especially that contractors usually look for cheaper options?
So what we believe right now, once we start to more commercialize things, and like some of the new instrumentation at the run at, the more the volume picks up, we believe the cost will be coming down. And I mean, Sam's on another call right now, but what I do believe is, I think with our contractors, if we work hand in glove with them, I don't think there's going to be a massive. Sam, a quick question for you. In regard to cost of some of the PPE, if you had to have a budget for that cost, what type of cost are you talking about when the volumes pick up across our fleet? Yeah, so I do believe, Glenn, that there will be an economy to scale. Like all things, there's going to be that initial cost, but we've got a driver. We can help maybe fund some of our contractors, so it's more easy for them to take it on board. Certainly now we're already piloting some of the PPE, and it's at our cost. So I think it's about working with our valued customers, the Schlumberger, the Baker Hughes, the Halliburton, working in partnership with them to find a way that's mutually beneficial. We're here to make this a success.
Great answer. Thank you very much. So another question for Karen, as a risk engineer, what worries you most about the global adoption of hydrogen technology?
So, you know, I said that Baker Risk has been working with hydrogen for 30+ years. There are certainly lots of companies out there that have also been working with hydrogen and know how to do it and operate safely and within an acceptable level of risk. What worries me most about is the new and upcoming companies who are very, very quickly rolling out technology and don't have the safety background that the long established companies do. And I just hope that they pause long enough to take on some of those best practices that have been implemented over the years.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. There seems to be a lot of new companies, green companies in hydrogen, and I think thinking we've got all this experience and understanding in other energy sectors, and why that's not being deployed to hydrogen, I don't understand. It does strike me as being a bit of an odd situation, but I'm sure that it will change. It will have to change.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many hydrogen conferences I go to where safety is not even mentioned, which is terrifying as a risk engineer.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. And I think it is starting to come to light now. People are talking about, the potential for hydrogen to, if we put it into the gas grids in the UK, whether actually it's more prone for leakage because of the smaller molecular size, and that kind of side of things is starting to come into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's you know, I think it's something that we will address with time. Okay, so there's no further questions coming in, and you know, I really do appreciate the speaker's time and to spend us, especially yourself, Karen. I probably suspect you'll need some rest now after this. It's very late, but I just want to thank all of you for speaking. It's been fascinating, really enjoyable, and yeah, some great questions as well have come in. So yeah, thank you to everyone for participating. So on that note, we will now have another short break. So it'll be 12 minutes. So if we can come back at 20 past sharpish for our final speaker in this session. And meanwhile, I'd encourage you all to use the chat function. So if you want to use the chat function on the portal, you need to go to the platform, click directory, find the person you want to chat to, and click chat on that icon and discuss some of the great topics today. And again, thank you so much to everyone. Really broad speakers again today, and really exciting to hear the different areas that we're looking at the moment. So thank you very much to everyone, and I will see you all back here in 20 past. So good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, depending where you're from. So we have after an excellent Q&A session for the past speakers, which covered a lot of topics and some really good thought-provoking questions. We have one more presentation in this session, who's from Jonathan Rabinovich, who's the partner and marketing manager at Astera. We're talking about satellite-based subsurface water leak detection. So this section will focus on how satellite-based infrastructure intelligence is creating impact around the world, with a focus on countries hardest hit by climate change, including the Middle East. As water resources become even scarcer, technological solutions are required which conserve potable water and contribute to more resilient infrastructure. Since 2016, Astera's recovery has saved more than 27 billion litres of potable water and 22,000 megawatts of energy a year, supporting the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So this is a topic that's pretty close to my heart, as we do an awful lot in hydraulic analysis in the water industry, including leak detection, and we're starting to bring satellite technologies into our offering as well. So satellites definitely have a role in reducing our water loss and also our energy costs in actually producing the water. So Jonathan is a partner and marketing manager for Astera, who works to expand satellite-based infrastructure intelligence around the globe. He holds a bachelor's in geosciences and has worked with international organizations to advance infrastructure projects, including water and environmental quality. So again, another very different topic to the previous one. So I'll hand over now to Jonathan. So having a slight technical issue here, so just bear with us. There's no audio there, so I'll wait to see if it comes back.
Good to be here. I want to thank all the hosts and organizers of the Middle East HSE and Sustainability Week, and for giving me the opportunity to speak to you a little bit today about a new technology that is having an impact around the world. So let's get started. Okay, great. So my name is Yonatan Rubinovich. I am the partner marketing manager at an Israel-based company called Astera. And what Astera does on its most basic level is find water underground using satellites. And I'll expand a little bit more on what that means later in the presentation. But specifically, what I want to talk about today is how this same satellite technology is used for subsurface water leak detection. So in order to do that, first I'll go over a bit about the background of why leaks and water loss are so important. From there, I'll talk a little bit about the technology that our company is using and the technology that we developed based on satellite technology. And finally, and the most important part, I'll talk about the impact that the technology is having on water loss around the world, but also on the energy sector as well, and how the two are intertwined. So the size of water loss. Often when we think about water loss, we think about different infomercials telling us to use less water when we're brushing our teeth, or to take shorter showers and reduce home water usage. But the truth is that most of the water that's being lost per year is happening even before it gets into our homes through municipal pipe networks. Something to the order of 2 trillion gallons in the USA alone is lost due to leaking pipes, and that's through an estimated 240,000 water main breaks occurring each year in the US. This data, by the way, is from the American Waterworks Association. So this is only in the US alone. You can imagine the scale of water loss across the world. Beyond the environmental impact of water being lost, there's also a tremendous financial burden associated with water. Something like $7.6 billion of treated water is lost due to leaks. That's water that would otherwise go to use, and that number is only expected to increase over the next 2 decades. So beyond just the environmental impact, we could see that utilities have a tremendous burden to deal with as well in terms of the money that's leaking out of the pipes, not just the water. Why does this all matter? Water is an increasingly limited resource. This is true in the Middle East, but it's also true around the world as well, even in water-rich countries in North America and Europe, but especially in countries impacted by climate change, Australia, Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. This is something that has become increasingly important on the national agenda of those countries. Beyond the water being lost, there's also an energy issue here. Water doesn't just get to the home. Oftentimes it needs to be pumped. And to give you a sense of what we're talking about, in California, something like 20% of all energy usage statewide is used just to pump water alone. So you can imagine there's a tremendous energy issue involved in water loss as well. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. And finally, wasted manpower. All these leaks have to go and be found and fixed, and the costs associated with that are tremendous in terms of manpower and the hours that are expended into these efforts. So that's a little bit about why water loss is important. Now let's talk about the technology itself. So our company is taking data from something called SAR satellites. SAR stands for Synthetic Aperture Radar. Synthetic Aperture Radar was developed by the United States in the 50s. It's a relatively old technology, and today it's mounted on a few satellites around the world that are constantly 24/7 circling the globe, and we receive data from those satellites. SAR is unique because it has an all-weather capability. It doesn't matter whether it's cloudy or rainy. The microwaves that are used as part of SAR penetrate the atmosphere, and as a result, they could be used also day and night, and it doesn't matter what's going on. For example, in regular satellite images, if it's a cloudy day, you can't take a picture. That's not the case with SAR. And most importantly, what SAR radar is able to do is penetrate the ground to a depth of up to 10 feet. So most water pipes around the world are something at a depth of around 5 feet. So we're able to see into where those pipes are underground. Like I mentioned, SAR is using microwaves similar to the microwaves that you might be using at home. However, they're a little different because they're on a different place on the electromagnetic spectrum. Specifically, the microwave that we're using is something called L-band, which is a specific wavelength. There are many different similar wavelengths, such as X-band and C-band. I'll talk more about those, but L-band is what we're using. And L-band is comparatively rare. There are only a few satellites around the world that are using this specific technology, but I'll talk more about why this is so important. So X-band and C-band, if you look at the image on the bottom right, you can see they're used more for oceanic research and agriculture and things that don't involve subsurface penetration. Whereas if we look at L-band, it could be used for soil moisture as it penetrates through above ground disturbances and can actually go deep into the soil. How does it actually work? So you could think of it something like a sonar, where these microwaves are being reflected back, and the data that's reflected back is the data that we're analyzing. But how do we find the water itself? So every substance has its own chemical properties, something called dielectric properties. Water specifically has a number at 81. But if we look specifically at water, more separated into different types, we can see that there are slight differences in the types of water. So we have seawater has a certain chemical signature, sewage, and distilled water, and potable water. So we're actually able to determine what is the water type underground. So we could see whether that's sewage, whether that's potable water, whether that's rainwater, or whether it's groundwater. And from that, we're able to determine where water is leaking out of a pipe, because we could see where there's an accumulation of potable water. By the way, this technology also works for sewage networks as well, but I'm going to be skipping that for today. So how did this all get started? So the founder of our company was involved in his master's degree in research for finding water underground on Mars. This is something you might have heard about in previous years, the search for life and things like that. And he had the idea that the same technology can be used on Earth as well to find leaks underground. So that was the genesis of our company, Astera. So Astera was founded as Utilis in 2013, and after 2 years of research and development, we moved to commercialization and our first projects worldwide in 2015. And since then, we've expanded all around the world into something like 60 countries. However, the same technology has applications beyond leak detection. So in 2020, we launched a product called Earthworks, which can be used for different types of infrastructure, such as railroads, dams, roads, places where soil moisture has an impact. And I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end. And finally, just this year, a few months ago, we rebranded from Utilis to Astera to represent the larger application of our technology and move just beyond the water sector. So our main product, the one I've been talking about, is our Recover product, and it's focused on leak detection and analysis. So I'll talk a little bit more about what that means and how it works. So let's say you're our end user, which is mostly water utilities. So what we do is we receive a raw satellite image from SAR radar, and we run our algorithm on that data in order to determine where water is underground. We then provide that data via an app to our customers on a GIS layout, where they can go out into the field and actually find the leaks in the water network. You can imagine that the way it works is through something called points of interest, where we're saying we think there's going to be a leak within a 100-meter radius, and now a field crew has to go out and determine where exactly that leak is in the pipe network. From that, they mark out where the leak is, and then someone actually has to go out and fix the pipe or replace the pipe. Leak detection has been ongoing since water networks were invented in urban environments. It's nothing new. There are many traditional technologies to find leaks. However, what our technology does is accelerate the pace at which these leaks can be found. So via traditional methods, something like 1.3 leaks can be found per day on average, whereas on average with our technology, 3.8 can be found. So that's a threefold increase, and it can be even a tenfold increase on traditional methods depending on the circumstances. So you can imagine the effect that has on water utilities and their ability to find the leaks underground. Okay, so that's a little bit about the technology. What I want to talk to you now is about the impact the technology is having, specifically on sustainable development goals. So we've completed over 450 projects around the world in something now over 60 countries. Also in places that are particularly impacted by climate change. We work a lot in the Middle East and Asia and Australia as well. We've done projects. And we have markets in the UK, America, anywhere you can imagine. Like I mentioned, there's a connection here between the energy grid and water loss. So as a result of finding leaks through our technology, we've been able to save over 14,500 metric tons in CO2 emissions since we began, and we save over 21,800 megawatt hours of energy annually through our technology. Just this past month, we hit 40,000 leaks verified through our technology, something we're very proud of. And this is saving something to the order of 40 billion liters of water a year through satellite-based technology. So you can imagine the impact that that's having. That is, at the end of the day, just a small amount of the water being lost, but every year we're growing, and we hope in the future that this technology can be expanded and save water all across the world. Astera's impact contribution to the Sustainable Development Goals. So out of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, we hit a lot of them. Chiefly, we focus on goals 6, 9, and 13. Goal 6 is clean water and sanitation and ensuring the availability and sustainable management of water sanitation for all. Our technology, of course, saves water and contributes directly to this goal around the world. Goal 9, to build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. I mentioned our Earthworks product, and I'll talk about that for a minute at the end, but we're able to make sure that infrastructure that is damaged or has potential to be damaged by climate change is going to be more resilient in the future, and making sure that less damage is occurring. And finally, goal 13, climate action, to take urgent action to combat climate change. We're saving on CO2 emissions, and we're saving water and taking an active approach to combating climate change using our technology. Lastly, I want to talk about Earthworks as something I mentioned just to give a sense of where this technology can be taken in the future. And to do that, I'll talk a little bit about our most recent product called Earthworks Rail. What you see in the image here is a railroad line, and superimposed on it is a soil moisture map. So one of the problems in building railroad lines is they're often built alongside hills, and hills are prone to landslides. This is something that has happened in Scotland most recently, but also in other places around the world, where landslides have caused direct loss of life, unfortunately. And landslides don't just happen, they're a result of water accumulated over years building up in a certain location. So you can imagine that using our technology, we're able to see where the water is building up and take preventative action to prevent landslides. And this is a trend that's being accelerated by climate change and needs urgent action in order to solve the issue. So this same technology that I'm showing you here with railroads is also applicable to dams, and roads and other places where water can be building up. But you can see that the technology has a great potential for the future to help solve some of the world's largest issues related to climate change. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed. I want to offer that everyone should feel free to reach out to me at yonatan.rabinovich@astera.io. If you have any questions, you could shoot me an email. I'd be happy to respond. Thank you again, and enjoy the rest of the week. Take care.
Thank you, Jonathan. So that wraps up this session. And I said, what a broad and diverse range of topics we've had. We've had drones, system bypass management, dealing with trust in the workplace with the pandemic, hydrogen, human machine interface technologies, and finally satellite-based leak detection. And again, as I said yesterday, you know, what I really enjoy about the Energy Institute is the broad range of speakers and topics you have at these conferences, which I always learn. You always learn at these events, so absolutely fantastic. And we are going to bring this session to an end now. So there'll be a short networking break till 2:45. So you'll have about 6 or 7 minutes before I hand back over to Martin. Again, in this time, I'd encourage you to use the chat function. Again, again, what you need to do is actually go to the platform, click directory, find the person you want to chat to, and then chat away. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of the conference. Again, a massive thank you to all the speakers giving up their time today. It's been a really enjoyable session for me, and I'm honoured and privileged to host it. And I look forward to the rest of the conference. So you'll be speaking to Martin in 6 minutes now. So enjoy your break, and I hope to see you all soon. Thanks very much.
So welcome back, everybody. It's Martin Meso again, and welcome back everybody to our panel discussion session. It's Martin Meso again. Before we begin this session, I just wanted to say thank you very much to Glenn and all the speakers from this morning for such a fantastic, energetic session. I really enjoyed listening to the presentations and very much appreciate everybody's contribution. So thank you very much for that. We're now moving on to a slightly different format. So we move on now to our discussion forum, the title of which is on business continuity, planning and getting to a new normal. For this session, I'm joined by 3 speakers today, all with great experience, really keen to share this experience with you and to talk about business continuity, key issues and good practice within, and to share with you their knowledge and their experience, and take any questions that you might have. So just to give you a quick description of how we plan to run the session, slightly different to this morning. We will effectively have a sort of a conversation between us. I've got a number of questions which I'm going to put to the panel. I'm going to ask each of them to lead on a particular question and then ask others to contribute, and hopefully that will generate a bit of a conversational feel. We will keep time at the end of the session to have questions from the audience. So please, if you do have questions, submit those in the usual way, and I'll be reviewing those in the question and answer box towards the end. We will have time to hopefully address those in situ, as it were. But before we get started, I'm going to introduce our 3 speakers to you. So the first speaker I would like to introduce is Sama Al-Hamad. So welcome, Sama, to the session. Sama is Superintendent for Business Sustainability in the Operational Excellence Department at Babco. So Sama holds a master's degree in occupational health and safety and a bachelor's degree in chemistry. She's an oil and gas certified health and safety professional and is a certified international enterprise risk manager. Sama has 5 years experience with Babco, but 16 years as a superintendent business resilience manager, mainly managing enterprise risk management processes and maintaining business continuity systems, conducting business impact assessments and developing business continuity plans. She also has 6 years experience as operational excellence management system leader, involved in the implementation of the OEMS at Babco, and 5 years as an occupational hygienist, covering all aspects of occupational hygiene, with great field experience, experience of worker exposure evaluations and corrective response oversight. Sama also has experience in risk assessment developments, has developed training courses, delivered training courses, and lectured at many conferences and other technical presentations in the region. So Sama, thank you for joining us and welcome to the session. Next, I'd like to introduce our second panelist, which is Renad Jad, who's the lead risk management person at Tatweer Petroleum. So Renad started her career at Capinova Investment Bank in February 2009, worked on both financial control departments and operational departments. She moved to Tatweer Petroleum in April 2013, started in the finance department with a number of different roles across finance, and then moved into internal audit in 2015 with responsibility for coordinating the enterprise risk management activities. So in 2018, she started leading the function of resilience management too, which includes both enterprise risk management and business continuity management. So welcome, Renad, to the session. It's great to have you with us. And finally, I'm going to introduce Ahmed Al Suwaidi, who's a specialist in business continuity at ADNOC onshore. So Ahmed holds a bachelor degree in mechanical engineering, has 12 years experience working as a senior engineer in oil field plant operations. Recent experiences included having a leading role in one of ADNOC's major business continuity exercises, which has involved operating with 100% UAE nationals for a month. So welcome to all of the panelists. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to, as I said, I'm going to direct some questions to the panelists and then give them an opportunity to comment on those questions. So my first question, which I'll start the session with, is, can you say a little bit about business continuity planning and what this means to your company and how is it managed and organized? And I'll start off by offering that question to Ahmed to answer first, please. Who appears, I've just noticed,
yeah.
not to
Ahmed
be...
is not here. Yeah.
Okay, good start. Good start. So look, so perhaps I could ask Sama, maybe you might like to start that one for us, and then Renad, you can follow up.
Sure. Can you just, do you want me to talk generally about the business continuity approach that we have here in our organization?
Yeah, just to give some context for the wider discussions we'll have after.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, from a business continuity point of view, it became one of the most essential elements within organizations in the recent years, mainly related into understanding the management of crisis and the capability of keeping your organization more resilient and more flexible towards changes, especially that we are moving into a very agile and very fast world, which actually you know, lots of things that could pop up at any time, and business continuity management systems just help the organization to cope with these different changes that are appearing around us. And it actually assists us as an organization to rapidly adapt to these changes, being it within control or beyond our control. And I mean, the COVID crisis is just one example of these rapid changes that appeared from nowhere. And had a lot of impact on organizations' continuity, and the organizations who have an established business continuity approach were able actually to take over and continue this established system. And I think Ahmed just joined us, so maybe you could actually address that as well.
Ahmed, hello. Can you hear us?
Oops, sorry for that. Hi, can you hear me?
It is. So thank you for joining us. So we're on the first question,
Sorry.
which we were going to address for us, which was if you could just say a little bit about business continuity planning and what it means for your company and how you manage it and organize it yourself.
Okay. Hi, first, Martin. Thank you for the introduction. I heard it, but then I had an issue with my connection. So in general, what is the business continuity? I just want to highlight the definition of it. It's a strategic first, and then a tactical back capability of the organization to plan for and respond to incidents and businesses disruptions in order to continue business operations at an acceptable predefined level. The organization should have business continuity framework, and the cycle can be summarized in 5 areas. First, we need to identify the critical process within the organization. Then we need to determine an appropriate response to a disruption of any disruptive incident. Then we need to develop a plan of action, which will be known as a business continuity plan, which I will describe in a bit. Then we need to test and exercise. After that, we need to educate and train the people. So regarding the business continuity plan, it's a documented procedure that guide the organization to respond, recover, resume, and restore the operation to a predefined level after a disruption occurs. The objective of the business continuity plan is to protect ADNOC or any organization business objectives and reputation. So if you don't have any plan for that, and you have an incident, and that incident, if you're not ready of it, you will take time to rebound, and it will affect your reputation and your business. And then it will define a structured response for an unplanned and extended outage of critical processes. It will manage business resumption and recovery of critical processes within the defined recovery timelines. And it will outline the communication approach between ADNOC primary and fallback teams required during the disruption. Also, it will define the roles and responsibilities of all the employees. If any incident happen, everyone knows what to do immediately. So business continuity consideration, when we do a business continuity consideration, we have like some consideration we need to put: people, technology, premises or buildings, and key equipment. We need to ask ourselves also, what if threats like for the business continuity? What if we have fire on this building? What if we have malicious attack in this location or that location? What if we have like tsunami or earthquake, or we have network outage? How we can continue our business? So so all possible scenarios must be planned for to ensure that systems and processes shall continue as normal in such events. And this is the role of the business continuity management. Thank you.
Thank you, Ahmed, and thank you. Thank you for help setting the scene and building the context for us. Very much appreciate that. And Sama, thank you very much for your contribution to that question. I'm going to address the next question to Renad, which is, please, can you say something about how you might maintain business continuity in the face of a global crisis, and if there's anything we've learned from recent experience? We can't hear you. Well, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Can anyone else hear, Reynad? No. Francesca, is there something you can do in the background to help?
Yeah, I'm trying. If we can move on to the next question, and I'll
How's that?
That's Francesca. Sorry, yeah, I'm trying. If you just go on to the next question, I'll try and.
Okay, should we move to the next question then, and keep that one back for Reynad when she's able to join? Can we? No, we still can't hear you, I'm afraid. We'll move on. So Sam, I'm going to ask you this question, which is, what have we learnt specifically in relation to the global pandemic about managing business continuity, and what should we have in place to ensure recovery and to prepare for future pandemics?
Okay, I mean, the pandemic was a very long journey, and it's I think one of the most effective journeys that activated majority of business continuity plans around organizations. It actually was very, let's say, good experience from a practice point of view, because it enabled organizations to test their capabilities, test what was developed over the cycle of the business continuity, which Ahmed refers to. Usually when you talk about business continuity, I mean, I started the journey of the development of the system in our organization. And initially, you have a lot of difficulty in convincing the people that these crises may happen at a certain time and that we need to be prepared for certain situations. And sometimes this preparation could take a lot of resources, a lot of time, where people do not see the value of it. However, the pandemic have changed that point of view. It actually enabled organizations to understand the most important element of business continuity, which is exercising. And I think, you know, through my experience with the business continuity process, I think exercising and testing is one of the most important parts of the whole business continuity perspective. You could prepare your documents, you could be ready with whatever you can, but if you did not test it in real life, you will not be able to say that it would work. And the pandemic was an enabler to that exercising by forcing a lot of organizations to effectively look into their business continuity plans, being it availability of workforce, being it the supply chain issues, being it even operating within different perspective, which is the remote working, which was something that we were thinking about as organizations, but it was something like maybe 3 to 4 years ahead. And we had to do it instantaneously when the pandemic happened. So I think, you know, business continuity value have been elevated in the last 2 years as a result of the pandemic. It actually helped us a lot in understanding the basis of business continuity and enabling organizations to take a lot of steps forward in thinking through what could go wrong in the future, and are we prepared for these different scenarios. And I think, you know, what's coming in the pipeline now is not less than what happened in the pandemic. It's just another way of looking at it. There will be a lot of risks that organizations should take care of. Some of these risks are very obvious and very easy to control, and some of these risks are beyond our control, that we really need to be able to reflect on them and make sure that we have a robust system to respond and recover as fast as possible, similar to what happened within the pandemic.
So that's excellent to hear. Thank you. So in effect, you're saying that the role of the business continuity planner has been made easier by the pandemic. So one other silver lining. We were hearing about other silver linings from the pandemic this morning from some of the other speakers. So that's good to hear. I'm just going to check. Is Reynad back with us? Or I don't think. No, I think we might have lost her altogether. Okay. So we'll move on to one of our next questions. So and I'll open it up to both Ahmed and Sama to answer. So what do you think has changed in relation to enterprise risk management after the pandemic?
Okay, Ahmed, do you want to go ahead?
Take it, please, Sama. Thank you.
Okay, I mean, from an enterprise point of view, we in our organization, we actually handle the enterprise risk management and the business continuity in one platform, where the enterprise risk management is the initial stage where we start horizon scanning, we start looking at emerging risks, we're starting to actually visualize, what could go wrong from internal, from external sources. And it actually helped us a lot in predicting what could go wrong. However, I mean, if you're an enterprise risk specialist, you would know that there are a lot of areas that you would have beyond your controls. And there are some which are very low in the frequency, where they are considered as the black swans, where you have your high consequence, low frequency, and they are not looked at very closely because of their frequency being that they could be a rare or one in a lifetime of an organization. But I think within the pandemic, the enterprise risk management have highlighted the importance of these, especially the ones that have really high consequence impact on the organization. And I think if you look into today's research, into today's lessons, they are always talking about these big elephants which are in the room that we don't talk about, but now they're becoming more and more important because we really need to look into them. We need to spend around them. We need to think about what could we do to help and protection towards these big impact elements. Even when you look into the matrices, the risk matrices itself, it have been reshaped and reformed to look further when it comes into a risk that falls into either a highest consequence or a highest likelihood, regardless of the impact of it. So if it's a very high impact element, organizations should spend time and effort and resources in visualizing what could go wrong and how this big impact could impact us. And then the business continuity comes into the picture, where you start developing your plans against these high enterprise risks that organization could face at any time of the period of their organization. And I mean, throughout the pandemic, I met a lot with other organizations. We discussed this issue, and majority of the organization had the pandemic as part of their workforce availability issue, but they were not highlighting it as one of the highest elements because they've never seen such an event that could come in the near future. Even if you look into the global risk reports, it was not highlighted as one of the top. It was towards the bottom top consequences and likelihood impact. So this gives us more of an understanding that sometimes the shifting of the enterprise risks, being it global risks, being it internal risks, could be quick. You could not be able to predict it. Being prepared for it will help you always as an organization to tackle it, no matter how frequent or how fast it actually appeared on your organization.
Thank you, Summer, for that. And I can see, Reynard, you've rejoined us. Can we now hear you? No. Oh dear. So I'm sorry. I don't know what's happening. I can't hear you. I'll leave Francesca to work in the background and see if she can work some magic to get us to be able to hear what you're saying. But unfortunately, I can't hear you. I'm assuming nobody else can either. Okay, so we're going to have to move on, I think. So, Sama, we spoke earlier about maybe life being made a little bit easier. How are things in terms of business continuity in the context of climate change and building in climate resilience? And has the pandemic and your experiences through the pandemic had an impact on that and the ability to prepare for potential changes in climate within the organization? Now lost Sana.
Hi.
Perhaps Ahmed, you can. So I'm going to ask Francesca. We seem to be having trouble with the sound. So Ahmed, just do a sound check. Can I hear you? Can
Yeah, yeah. Yes,
Great.
I can.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. I can hear you now. That's
Okay.
great.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, looking at the climate change and being one of the, let's say, upcoming changes that's taking a lot of, parts of the planning, parts of organizations, parts of the conferences that are appearing. I mean, the opening session of the Energy Institute session yesterday by His Highness Dr. Abdel Hussein Mirza was highlighting the climate change commitments that Bahrain have taken on board in the coming years. And I think, this is type of change that will be appearing on us as organization within the energy sector, and that we will take it on board. And the only things that this change is targeted, we know that this change is coming. We have to work towards it. However, the impact of the climate change as well could be on another aspect where you could see the increase of the fires that appeared on this, this year that impacted a lot of countries, a lot of organizations around the area. There were around 34 different wildlife fire this year, and that is expected to be increasing over the years. Because of the climate change, and if nothing is happening rapidly, this could actually hit us in other areas where we could have floods, we could have more crises, which are more of a weather type that are very difficult to manage, especially if you're talking about different operational areas and different areas that are subjected to these type of incidents. So, the enterprise risk management, the business continuity, both are very important in establishing a preparedness element of how can we tackle these different type of risks that could appear very, we can see them, but we don't know when are they going to happen. And this could happen for any GCC country or any international country. I mean, the risks differ dependent on where do you reside as an organization, on your location, on your geographical perspective. But as a climate change element, from my own experience, I think there are two areas that business continuity and enterprise risk managers should look into, is that being prepared to the changes in the legislations that will hit us related to carbon emissions, decarbonization impact, and the changes that could be between now and achieving the net zero, is what are the different climate weather conditions that could appear and could stop us from operating. So I think these are the two focus areas that we should look at very closely.
Thank you, Sama. That's a great answer. Thank you very much. And Ahmed, is there anything you'd like to say about this in relation to specific to your own company experience?
Yeah, regarding the carbon and the emissions that the power plant and our operations that have emissions. First, like ADNOC and His Highness, His Excellency Sultan Jaber, CEO of ADNOC, he mentioned that in the ATPEC, in the opening speech, that ADNOC was the first company to bring carbon capture, utilization, and storage to the region. And ADNOC, like when we have one of the company names Emarat Steel, that the emissions of that, the CO2 of that, we injected back into the reservoir to enhance the oil recovery. Now we are capturing 100,000 tons per year, and our project, our plan is to expand that capacity to 5 million tons per year in 2030. So this is one of the major initiatives that we have to protect us from to prepare for the climate change, and to have like footprint in this regard. And moreover, we are soon will deliver as ADNOC another first of our industry. From the upcoming January, up to 100% of our grid power will come from clean sources, namely nuclear and solar. In one move, this will significantly reduce ADNOC operations emissions. So this is the two major things that we have many other initiatives, like planting millions of seedlings and mangroves, and to enhance the biodiversity, and many other initiatives. But this is the major things that we are doing to protect protect us from the climate change. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ahmed, for that answer. It's very interesting to hear. And I'm just going to take a quick moment to remind the audience, if you do have questions for our panelists, please do put them in the Q&A box and we'll pick them up at the end of the session. But just to check now, so Renad, are you with us?
Hi, Martin. I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can.
Finally.
Loud and clear. Brilliant.
Brilliant.
Really nice,
okay.
Really nice that you could join us. So Renad,
okay.
we skipped one of the questions for you. So
yeah.
the
can
question.
I just comment? Can I just comment on the climate change? I just have something to add in general regarding business continuity. So basically, as Samah mentioned, when it comes to enterprise risk management, we're looking at horizon scanning and emerging risks. So it's been on the radar that climate change has been there for several years. So now organizations need to consider it and take it seriously, that what would be the impact of the climate change on the organization. And from a business continuity perspective, so business continuity, it helps us to look at the threats, the vulnerabilities in our system, and be able to be prepared for any event. Regardless of likelihood of event, we need to be prepared for any event that would have severe impact on our organizations. So basically, climate change, yes, the energy sector needs to look at the emissions, the renewable energies, because that's how the business is. However, even other impacts could arise from the climate change, which is, for example, as we can see, the heat waves, the sandstorms, or any type of weather impact that could impact our people. We could also find like absenteeism, or people cannot travel because of the weather conditions. We have to look at our assets, our infrastructure. Is it ready to withhold any changes within the environment? I mean, we live in an area where maybe we're not prone to earthquakes, but what if climate change is going to change that? Are we ready for it or not? And we also have to emphasize on, and this is something we've seen in the pandemic, the crisis management team. The crisis management team within organizations need to always be ready for such events, because they're the team, the management team that need to look at the situation as it evolves. Just like what's happening with the pandemic, it's the role of crisis management team as well to look at what is the available information, what is happening, change is happening so fast, how can we adapt and how we can be flexible in order for organizations to survive in this.
So that's an interesting point, that change is happening fast. So the question we had earlier was how would you maintain business continuity in a fast changing, in the eye of the storm, if you like, in a crisis?
Yeah.
And I guess the storm of climate change, it's not meant to be a pun, but you know, that's relatively slow moving, but the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, was quite a fast moving crisis. So how do you maintain that business continuity, and how is the pace of the crisis you're facing impact on that?
Okay, so basically the short answer for that, and what we've seen from the pandemic, and some organizations were able to survive, some organizations went out of business, is for organizations to be resilient. So basically the concept of resilience is an organization's ability to prepare for, respond to, and adapt to any incremental changes and any sudden disruptions that could happen to their business. And why do they do that? In order for them to survive and prosper. So basically, within organization resilience, and what we've done in the company, the need to be resilient is we have developed a system to bring disciplines together, because organization resilience is not like a function or a department. They need to do some sort of, there's a process for it. It's a collaborative effort between different functions. So we've got enterprise risk management as a discipline. So enterprise risk management looks at the corporate risks. It identifies the risks, it assesses them, it looks at the controls we have in place, and puts in mitigations in order for the company to be able to survive those risks and manage them to an acceptable level. Now, there's another discipline, which is what we're talking about, is the business continuity. And as Ahmed explained earlier, business continuity is company's capability and ability to continue delivering its products and services after any disruptions. So there are a lot of things that you need to do within business as usual to be able to be prepared for when any disruption happens. And then now resilience, it's more of a strategic imperative. It's not an operational, it's not a checklist. It's not that we have to do 1, 2, 3, 4. It has to be looked at from the top, from the board level, from the executive management. Because as Samah mentioned, horizon scanning, it's part of resilience. You have to know what's coming up next and how you will be able to be prepared for it. And traditionally, when we look at likelihood and consequences of a risk, if we look at a risk with very low likelihood, and then we maybe some companies say, okay, what are the likelihood of this happening? So they kind of ignore it. But the pandemic has showed us that we can't ignore. We can't ignore, even if the risk, we cannot control it, it's from an external factor, we still have to be able to manage it or at least have a backup plan in place. And of course, crisis management and emergency response is an important element of resilience because no matter how much planning you put in place, if an incident happens, who are the first responders? They are the emergency response. If it's a fire, they need to make sure the safety of people, the safety of the assets, the environment, and then the business continuity team picks it up from there and ensure that we have plans in place. We've already thought about it. We don't need to think about it after the incident. We thought about it. We have plans. We have strategies. What are we going to do when this happens? And it's the role of the crisis management team to actually look at the information they have and be able to make those decisions at a strategic level to ensure that the company can survive in the face of any crisis, let's say the pandemic, for example.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Thank you. So just move on. We touched on this earlier in the day, and it's the importance of collaborating with others. So I'm just going to ask each of you if you could say something about, how important do you think collaboration is in the context of maintaining business continuity, and do you have anything you can say about your own experiences and in collaborating? And perhaps if I ask Ahmed first, and then we can move to Sama and Renaud for an answer.
Again, I'm first.
Yes, please.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. Can you repeat the question, please? The voice was the collaboration.
So it's just to say, how important do you think collaboration is, collaborating with others in the context of building business continuity in an organization?
Exactly. First of all, we need, when we are doing the business continuity plan, we need to make sure that all the stakeholders, all the SMEs are on board. And when we are doing the workshop, everyone knows what to do, and they need to be collaborated. Something happened, this to be done. And if in case like all the field, certain field down, blackout, other field can they know that they need to come back online to increase their production. We need to have this collaboration, and we have it. And if we don't have it, it will be like chaos, and more incidents will happen, and the delay of the business will impact. The impact the organization in general. So having that collaboration save like millions days of putting the business back to normal. We need to have that when we're doing the workshop. We have this in our plan, and we have the contact number of each SMEs, and also even outside the organization we have for the contractors and their alternatives. What will happen if something happened? We call all the contractors around to move on to this location to rectify as soon as possible.
Sama, do you have anything you'd like to add to the issue around collaboration?
Yes, I think, one of the most important successful business continuity management system is the collaborative system. And in my experience, the collaboration should happen on different levels. I mean, the first initial collaboration that we always initiate is the collaboration among departments within one organization, and the capabilities to cover up for each other within one organization, and how can support be granted from one element to another organization. Although, you know, the business continuity plans could be departmental wise developed, but there are a lot of recovery strategies that are built on collaborating with another department, such as today's work environment is totally built on digital system. So if we don't have clear collaboration between operational areas and between our IT systems, we could have an operational disruption as a result of an IT system. And if IT does not understand the needs of the operational area, they may not recover within the time frame that the operational area needs, and that could impact the overall organization objectives. So we try to create these clear linkages and clear collaborations, and even throughout our business impact assessments, business continuity planning, we involve all parties, the core and the support, especially if the support is from other departments. And we have extended that not only within the organization, where we had a second layer of collaboration, where we collaborate with our contractors, especially if we need manpower or we need special skills. So we could have multiple collaboration with multiple contractors or service providers to see that if we have unavailability of a specific contractor, especially the ones that we call them the single point of failure, so the ones that have a special skill that are very rare. So we always try to have more than one alternative and more than one collaboration to be able to pick it up in case of unavailability of one of these. And I think in my experience, what actually enhanced the business continuity plan strategies and redundancies and capabilities of organization is not only collaborating within your fence. You should collaborate with all other industries within your organization. I mean, from our point of view, we do have suppliers, we do have customers, and we do have our inputs from different areas, being it industry or being it service providers or material or procurement suppliers. So if we do a clear collaboration with these and we extend our understanding of what are their capabilities when it comes to business continuity plan, we will be able to understand our situation. If they fail, we could partially fail or fully fail if they actually are not very keen about their business continuity plan. So the extension of collaboration should be extended to your supply chain at all levels, because that's the only way to succeed and be able to evaluate your capabilities as an organization. Because at the end, you are as part of a whip. And if anything falls as part of this whip, you could actually fall in. And recently, we actually even increased the level of collaboration, not only within the country, but even beyond that, where we started collaborating with other industries, such as other refineries in the GCC, who could have a support system for us through memorandums of understanding, through different meetings, through grid systems, such as our electrical grid system in Bahrain is actually linked to the GCC now. So these different type of projects, collaborative efforts, will help us to support and to be supported if needed during crisis. And I think, as I said, it's a core element in business continuity plan. And if you really want to escalate the level of your robustness, collaborate more, and that will show you how could you actually invest in collaboration to make a redundant and supportive, resilient organization.
Thank you very much for that. And it would be remiss of me if I didn't use this as an opportunity to remind everybody that the Energy Institute is in fact a collaborative forum, encouraging folks and facilitating collaboration across industry in the development of good practices to support the industry as a whole. So collaboration is very important to us. Reynad, I wondered if you could just say a little bit more about how you adapt and respond to risk in your company.
All right, Martin. So basically, adapting and responding to risks, you need to have a framework, processes, and procedures in place. So I'll go back to the resilience part as well, and this is how we do it. So enterprise risk management is the discipline, as I mentioned, that looks after the corporate risks. So it is where you identify the risks to the business, whether from internal factors, whether from external factors, because you do emerging risks and horizon scanning practices. And within your risk assessment workshops, you bring in all the subject matter experts. So you involve the whole company and you start identifying the risks. Another way of identifying risks is also through the business impact analysis, which is done through business continuity as well. You analyze your processes and you analyze what are the threats and disruptions that could affect those processes. And then you would have a lot, I would say, like a more of a risk universe. And then basically what we do is we look at what controls we have in place to ensure that these risks do not materialize. And in the case of the risk has a potential impact, we need to have a backup plan. Backup plan in the sense of either from an operational perspective, like having workarounds in place. It could be a bit higher, like you would go up to a strategy, changing strategies, having redundancies of facilities. Going back to collaboration, you might need to collaborate with your customers, with your suppliers, to make sure that if something happens to one service provider or a supplier, you do have the others. So this is all capturing how we respond to risk. And of course, another element is, as I mentioned, having a crisis management team and emergency response team, because when a risk materializes, it could be an incident. It could be something that physically impacts the operation. So you need that team who is experienced and be able to remediate within a very timely manner, because it's all about time as well. So this is generally how we look at it. Another element of enterprise risk management is being at a corporate level. Risk management discipline, you could find it in multi-departments. So what we do is there has to be an escalation process. So sometimes risks originate from one department, but the impact is affecting multiple departments. And this is the value of enterprise risk management. Risks are escalated and being evaluated at that level. So we ensure that the company will be able to achieve its objectives regardless of what risks they face.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, I'm going to remind the audience that there is the opportunity to put questions in the Q&A box. I can't see any questions at the moment. So what I'm going to ask is, I will just take a moment to just come to each of you. Just we're in the last quarter of the session, so I'm just going to give you an opportunity now to just wrap up any thoughts that you'd like to leave us with that you've not had a chance to cover so far on the issue of business continuity and preparedness for the future and future planning. So I'll come to each of you in turn, but Ahmed, is there anything you would like to say in wrapping up?
Nothing in mind right now, but maybe I will talk about it later.
Okay. Sama, would you like to say anything before we close the session?
Yes, yeah, I would like actually to highlight, you know, and my message maybe is not only for directly related to risk managers or business continuity specialists, it's more for management and leadership within organization, is that business continuity and enterprise risk management are given. They should be incorporated within the organization within all levels. It should be a practice, a cultural practice that we embed within our organization. And a lot of organization thinks that the enterprise risk management and the business continuity are things that should be happening on the elevated level of the organization. And from my own experience, I have a very strong belief that if you really need to have a successful organization, a resilient organization, that you build it up throughout all levels. Literally involve every single level within the organization in the development process of understanding the concept of being resilient, of understanding the concept of the importance of business continuity within the organization. From any level, how can we do it differently? What are our alternatives? And if we started capturing and building up this concept among our operational people, our supervisors. It will become a cultural understanding that we always should have plan A, plan B, plan C. And these plans should be operating, should be tested, should be capable of taking us to where are we today, if not into a better position. And I think this is very clearly now reflected if you look into the standards and guidelines. And I saw one of the sessions today was actually highlighting the importance of the legal standards, the guidelines, and one of the most big standards that talks about risks and opportunities is the ISO standards. All the ISO standards, high-level structure, have built in the risks and opportunities as part of their clauses as a very, very essential element in your plans, which says that organizations should have a very clear outlook. They should look into the risks and their opportunities and how can they mitigate the risk and exploit these opportunities. So I think, you know, the standards are, although they are a guideline, but they are taking us towards the futuristic output of importance of business continuity, enterprise risk management. And it's not something that we should, you know, keep on the side till a crisis happen. We want it to be readily available at all levels to be able to combat any crisis at any time. And lastly, I just wanted to, you know, illustrate on the process of ensuring that we have a proper integration of our systems. Business continuity team, crisis management team, enterprise risk management team should all work collaboratively together because they are putting the whole picture into perspective to make a resilient organization. So the organization cannot be resilient if one of these three big parts is not operating properly. So if you don't anticipate the risk properly and you don't have a proper management of the crisis, you will not be able to continue. So it is one storyline that you should look at, and this is the only way to enable you to be a resilient organization or to call yourself as a resilient organization. Thank you.
Thank you for that, and I'll offer to Renaud if you had anything you'd like to close with today.
Thank you, Martin. Well, as Benjamin Franklin said, out of adversity comes opportunity. And sadly, we had to have a pandemic to realize the value of resilience, which is, as my colleague Samah mentioned, for organizations to survive in this world, they need to be resilient, which is all of these disciplines come together in a collaborative approach, the enterprise risk management, the crisis, and the business continuity. And that's what we've exactly seen. I mean, in our companies, because we've already established that basis, we've seen how all these disciplines came together and helped us through the pandemic to survive that pandemic and actually not even be impacted with our productivity and performance. And I think after this pandemic, there will be a greater appreciation from a board level, from management level to these disciplines, enterprise risk management and business continuity and resilience. And it has to be one of the elements that I believe, and in some organizations they have it, some organizations they don't, is the positioning of such functions. They have to be at a very managerial level because that gives them I would say the competitive edge of being at a strategic executive level rather than being maybe part of a department. So it would be perceived as a function. And yeah, we are advocates of resilience management. And I guess Samah said most of the things and I agree with her. So yeah, that's my last.
Martin, can I add now?
Yes, please do.
Yes, I just thought about it. We didn't talk about it, but we can have all the business continuity plans that we have. We have all the scenarios, but if you are really not involving your people as an organization, you are not you are not testing them. They don't know what they will do. So the more frequent you have as exercise, as drills. Put many scenarios, like put them together, even tabletop exercise. If this goes wrong, what you will do, guys? Yeah, you have this plan. Move one step at a time, and then so and the management should be accountable and responsible to achieve to be successful as business continuity. This is what I want to say regarding the test and exercises. We need to emphasize on it, and we need to make sure that our organization is really resilient, as my colleague says. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you all. And it's great to hear how people and collaboration are at the heart of your thinking across all of you, because of course that is at the heart of the Energy Institute. We are an institute which is there to foster collaboration and to support people working in the industry. So they're themes that resonate very strongly with me. So, so look, I would like to say to all of you, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a real privilege to benefit from your knowledge and your insights. And I'd really like to thank all of you for sharing that with us and with our audience today. It's been a real privilege, and the hour's flown by. So thank you ever so much for that. And I hope you've enjoyed the experience as well. But it really has been a great privilege to have you. So thank you. I'm going to now have to, I think, close down the session and let everybody know that we've got. Well, also I should say thank you to this morning's speakers as well. It's been a fascinating morning all around, actually, and thank you again to Glyn for chairing and moderating the session so expertly today. This morning's session is coming to a close now. We're going to have a break. It's a 10-minute break, I think, where you can navigate to the RD mobile platform and chat to people by clicking on directory and finding people that you'd like to chat with. You may even wish to chat and engage with our speakers and interrogate them further about the excellent contributions they made for us today. So the session is now ending, so please do go on the mobile platform. When I think at 5 to 11 UK time, we have a workshop session which is looking at the importance of controlling static electricity. That's been run. I'll be handing over at that point to my good colleague, Dr. Mark Scanlon, who heads up all of our health, safety and environmental activities at the Energy Institute, who will be working with Hari Kumar, Director of GHSE Assurance at ADNOC. So that will be at 5 to 11. For now, I think we're going to go to a break until then, so you can go onto the platform and please do make use of that. Please do engage with each other. Thank you again to our excellent speakers in our discussion session. I thoroughly enjoyed that. So thank you, Ahmed, Sama and Renad. That was really enjoyable hour. Thank you to everyone for this morning, and I'll
so much.
say goodbye and let you go to your break. So thank you very much.